Hey everybody, welcome to the Hang Up. It is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. I have been sick all week, and so apologies if I seem incredibly, I don't know, low energy, useless. My brain's maybe not working as well. This would be a great night for an apologist to call in and truly get the better of me, to just clean my clock in the best possible way, because it's kind of like I'm drunk with a quarter of my brain tied behind my back, but this is a call-in show. It's also my Wednesday night therapy show. I talk about whatever the heck I want to talk about, what I'm hung up on. And tonight it's going to be about honesty a little bit. But also, once the show's over, or once the call-in portion of the show's over, we will be reading all super chats over $10. If you guys want to send in some get well wishes in super chats, that'd just be wonderful. I mean, I'm really weak and beat down, and only if you're able, only if you care, only if you want me to come back on another week and do some more stuff. But okay, so yeah, my stomach has been acting up for days, but you know what, I'm here, and it's the way we're gonna have to do it tonight. In the news bits, it turns out today, or in the last 24 hours, they've started releasing some information where the Department of Justice told Trump back in May that he was all over the Epstein files, and not in necessarily a good way. And they made a point of saying that being in the Epstein files is not in any way confirmation that you've committed a crime or done anything wrong. But it does mean that he's almost certainly committed a crime or done something wrong, because it means he's known since at least May, if not much longer, that he's in there. And you would release the files if they exonerated you, which means they clearly don't exonerate you. Anybody who thinks that his get out of trouble free card is there in the Epstein files and he just is reluctant to release it, you don't know Trump. There's no way anyone who's been accused of stuff can have the files that exonerate them and then say, no, we're not going to release those, which means it has to be incredibly incriminating. But we all already knew that. It also means that he lied just a couple of days ago when a member of the press asked him about that meeting back in May and whether or not he was told that he was in there. And he avoided answering the question directly and instead decided to, well, these things were invented by Comey and Obama and the Biden administration, and it's all fake, and we knew it was fake, and they told me the stuff that was in there, but it wasn't credible. He's already laying the groundwork to ignore it. Now, none of this is a surprise, because the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, lies as often almost as he breathes. Recently, he lied again with one of his favorite anecdotes by saying that he had a conversation with his uncle, who was a professor at MIT, about Ted Kaczynski, because Kaczynski went to MIT and was a student under his uncle. And he remembered asking his uncle what kind of student he was, because Ted Kaczynski was the Unabomber. And he's like, oh, he's very good. It's a type of anecdote you would tell to make yourself look significant. He's probably been telling this thing for many, many, many years. The problem is everything about that is a lie. You see, Kaczynski didn't go to MIT, and Trump's uncle died before anybody knew who the Unabomber was, which means it's not possible for Trump to have had a conversation with his uncle about teaching the Unabomber if nobody knew who the Unabomber was then. And since he didn't go to MIT and Trump's uncle taught at MIT, that's also impossible. It is layers upon layers of impossibility. It is the sort of thing you can tell stupidly amongst your rich buddies or your socialite friends, because they're never going to check up on you. See, Trump is finally having to face proper investigative journalists, or at least sometimes he is. Sometimes even the journalists seem to just dismiss it. His supporters are either clueless or complicit, but we already knew that too. They don't care about the lies or the crimes. Even decent Christian believers have been defending or dismissing his abominable acts. And it makes me wonder, are theists any more likely to be honest than anybody else? Are they less likely to be honest? Is it more likely to engage in dishonesty? Because there's a suspicion that everybody who's out there who sincerely believes in a God or professes a belief in God fit into two categories: those who, in fact, do believe and profess it, and those who don't believe but profess it anyway. And you can't tell the difference between them because we don't have any sort of mind reading device. We don't have any way to tell who's telling us the truth. So you should judge by their actions. But when their actions are inconsistent, by their fruits you shall know them. When their actions are inconsistent with the values that they espouse, does that mean they're a hypocrite, or do they get to, what does that tell us about whether or not they actually believe? Well, it tells us at a minimum that they don't believe the values that they're advocating, even if they believe there's a God. But if you thought there was a God who knows everything that you think and everything that you do, who's watching you all the time, who's going to judge you, how could you possibly lie about the basics tied to that God and your God belief, knowing that God's going to catch you out, knowing that God knows you're lying from the beginning? Now, we know, past church fathers and stuff had suggested that it's okay to lie on behalf of the gospel because, you can, the ends justify the means. If you bring more people to Christ, it doesn't matter if they got there through a lie, God will fix it and make it all true. Now, when it comes to like apologists, though, it's a different category. It's a different group of individuals, because the apologists are either going to engage in an evidence-based argument for their God, which may or may not be their reason for belief, or they're going to go down the philosophical route, which may or may not be the justification for their belief. For example, William Lane Craig famously believes because of the inner witness of the Holy Spirit, but he doesn't present that as an argument because he correctly, to his credit, understands that his inner witness of the Holy Spirit does me no good at all. And it doesn't do any good for anybody else. He's had his Damascus Road style experience, or his sensus divinatus, or his internal revelation, and that's good enough for him. Whether or not it should be, we may address later. But as David Hume pointed out, revelation is necessarily first person, and to everybody else it's hearsay. And so it's not very strong. So he correctly presents the sort of arguments that he thinks people ought to find compelling, in the hopes that it will convince them enough so that they might also be graced by God with the inner witness of the Holy Spirit. My apologies if Craig or anybody thinks I'm misrepresenting him. I'm genuinely talking about what I think he's got right. The problem is he telling the truth? That he, in fact, has the inner witness of the Holy Spirit, and that, in fact, he does believe this? Or does he understand that even his own justification for believing is something that should not convince him or anybody else? Because how did you rule out delusion? How did you rule out any number of explanations other than, I feel God, so therefore it must be God? Apologists, especially the philosophy bros, are a little problematic. I tuned into a live stream today. I almost never do this. My apologies for not remembering the individual's name. I subscribed today just so I could comment and give them a super chat and let them know that they should keep doing this. You guys might know who it is. Somebody in chat probably knows. Somebody in chat probably saw me. But he was live and he was doing debates. And one of the philosophy bros calls in. Now, it was an interesting interaction. But the caller sounded a little familiar and sounds like somebody that might have wound up banned here. Yeah, somebody said DZ debates. Yes, that's where it was today. So thank you for allowing me to sit over there and watch. I appreciate the conversation. I love the philosophy. It's important. I get a little irritated when some people just dismiss it as, oh, that's just, philosophy and jargon. He wasn't doing that. And for example, my friend and co-host on the show frequently, Seth Andrews, not a fan of the philosophy stuff. When people start going down the pure, abstract, deep philosophy thing, Seth's eyes seem to instantly glaze over, and he makes no bones about the fact that that's not going to be compelling to him. And I think, is his name Justin? Thanks. So yeah, Justin's been on the channel before, I'm told, not with me. But Justin was pointing out the use of this jargon and everything else. But I want to talk about what was actually happening from the standpoint of someone who does understand and care about the philosophy. Without the philosophy, everything else is a waste of time. If you don't have the laws of logic, if you don't have the foundation there, everything you talk about, evidence, epistemology, all of those things about empirical evidence presented, none of that matters if the logic isn't there. But most of you don't need to know the details of it. You don't have to know the principle of sufficient reason. You don't have to know the various categories. You don't even have to know identity, non-contradiction, and excluded middle. And Justin did a really good job pointing out that, something along the lines of, I don't need to know how my car works to know whether or not it's working, and to know some basic things about it, and to know what its capabilities are, in driving. So I love the philosophy, but much of the time that I spend digging in on it is about exposing how it's being abused. Why is it that these philosophy bros think that they have a warranted belief because of their sophomore understanding of the foundations of logical reasoning? Have they not spent any time considering that? Because their grandmother, who's never spent a second on the logical absolutes, they are probably convinced that she has a warranted belief. And certainly most of them, find William Lane Craig's inner witness of the Holy Spirit, that would warrant his belief. Although I don't think it does, and I think that's pretty easy to demonstrate, though. But they use their understanding of philosophy in order to avoid and obfuscate and direct around what would be sound epistemology. Why is the Damascus Road experience not good enough for all of us? How is it that William Lane Craig can have an inner witness of the Holy Spirit? Their grandma can go to church and never know a thing about philosophy and be filled with the Holy Spirit and love for the Lord. And, she knows that she knows that she knows that she knows that Jesus Christ is Lord. Saved by grace. Amen. Give it up. If God isn't provable to someone without special training, then it's clearly not a God for everyone. God is playing metaphysical hide and seek, putting clues out in the confused conceptual fabric of philosophy while avoiding sound epistemology, creating us with minds to process the world and gain an understanding not only of the difference between truth and fiction, but how to go about establishing that, and then his own existence and the facts surrounding his existence are in a realm that is immune to that investigation. He could presumably present evidence and doesn't. And a good chunk of what I spend my time studying within philosophy is about debunking what the philosophy bros are trying to do. I'm going to be doing some videos on this in the near future, so I'm not going to be going into it in detail. But today it was something cannot move itself, and this violates the law of non-contradiction. No, it doesn't. And you have no idea how silly you sound pretending that you understand something when you don't. Identity, non-contradiction, and excluded middle, sometimes called the laws of thought, the laws of logic. All they are, and this could be summed up, as I mentioned before, in a single Venn diagram with a single circle where everything is either in the circle or not in the circle. Nothing is both in and out of the circle, and nothing is neither in or out of the circle. Basically, all three of those laws of thought are everything is what it is, isn't what it isn't, and nothing is neither or both at the same time in the same way. You don't need to remember that. When you get it, that's a really cool package to put it all into. But at the end of the day, identity, non-contradiction, and excluded middle are completely content agnostic. They are the diagram. They are not the thing you're trying to categorize and put into the diagram. When you hear someone say, well, that's illogical, for the most part, and there'll be a video on this as well, for the most part, take that as a colloquial saying, hey, that's irrational or that's unreasonable, because that's probably what most people mean. But outside of that, when they say, oh, that's illogical, they might be saying, that's not mathematical. Logic doesn't care about the content. Logic is what allows you to create boxes for you to put things in order to categorize them and evaluate them using set theory and everything else. When you hear someone say, ooh, that violates the law of non-contradiction, that statement can only be true of a logical argument that is, in fact, fallacious. The statement, X violates the law of non-contradiction, cannot apply to an epistemic or ontological claim about reality. It can only apply to a logical argument, the abstract. I'm going to be, as I said, posting videos on that over the next week. But if you're calling in tonight to defend a God belief, be ready. Be warned, because while I am sick and I'll be operating in a terrible haze, philosophy bros are the easiest to defeat because they start by avoiding empirical evidence, which is what most people care about. They dig in on jargon and conceptual things that most people don't care about. And any tie to reality is avoided, if at all possible. And they always push back into abstract ideas in an attempt to shift the burden of proof. There were several times today during the conversation where essentially what would happen is the caller would say something like, well, nothing can move itself. And Justin would say, I'm not convinced. And the caller would say, so you're saying something can? Justin, in one way or another, would basically say, no, I'm saying you haven't established that nothing can. Well, if you violate non-contradiction, accept that didn't happen and doesn't happen. This is what happens when you are this knowledgeable about philosophy, where you've taken your first semester or two, and now you think you have the solution to everything. Oh, there has to be a grounding for logic. Does there? How did you determine that identity, non-contradiction, and excluded middle aren't merely the way things are? By the way, we have no way of demonstrating it. We would have to assume they were correct to try to prove they were wrong. They seem to be universal. It is absurd to think they're not universal. And yet, what difference does it make if something is absurd if in fact they're not universal? So they are the presupposition. They are the point we begin with. This is how we look at what we're going to look at in reality. And if somebody says, ooh, that's illogical, that's like saying, ooh, that's not mathematical. Okay, well, it's not a formula. And ooh, wait a minute. We need to look at this and see if it violates the law of non-contradiction. No, you don't. Because that law is an abstract thing that only defines that structure, the box. It does not describe, nor does it care about the contents of the box or what's out of the box or anything like that. And so I'm happy to have these philosophical discussions on occasion, primarily to expose how absolutely useless they are. What if you had a completely undefeatable logical argument for God? And by that, I'll put it in two categories. One is that nobody can think of a way to beat it. And number two is there is no way to defeat this. And it is, in fact, in principle, it is falsifiable, the premises in there, but we don't have any way to investigate it. Should that be compelling to people? That's a separate question from whether it would be compelling. But if there is a God, and that God cares about whether or not people believe that he exists, that God should be available to clear it up. That God should not require sophomores to come in and tell us all about how something violates the law of non-contradiction when it absolutely fucking doesn't. That God should be embarrassed by these philosophy bros running around pretending to have the intellectual superiority, pretending to have the high ground, and pretending to offer good reasons to believe. But that God can't be embarrassed by them because he would already need to be embarrassed about himself for not providing that evidence to all of us at any time. So if you're going to call in tonight and you're going to defend a God, we'd prefer that you present an evidence-based case. If you're going to dig in on abstractions, be prepared to give justifications for your claim. Oh, I'd like to call in about the Kalam cosmological argument. Okay. That begins with everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence. Yes. And the universe began to exist. Yes, that's the second premise. Therefore, the universe had a cause for its existence. Yes, that syllogism is valid in structure, but the premises may or may not be sound. I can freely and easily reject both of them. And when you force them to defend those premises, oh, that's a different argument that has its own problems. And the Kalam, by the way, what's the conclusion of the Kalam cosmological argument? Therefore, the universe had a cause. Even in the context of that, if it were all correct, that wouldn't tell you anything about the cause. It doesn't tell you whether or not it could be self-caused or what it is that we're even describing. Is it merely the expansion or the existence? Because we are epistemologically blocked from investigating the ontology of the universe prior to the Planck time. And this is why the philosophy bros stick in this little realm. Because they know, those individuals that focus on that, they know that there isn't warranted belief outside of that abstraction. And if they knew enough to know that, they then should know that that abstraction is insufficient, which means they are lying, probably to themselves first, but lying to the world as well. Lying in the sense that they're advocating for a position that they know or should know isn't warranted, and they are desperately taking that idea and seeking to find some justification for it somewhere. And if they can engage with people who don't understand philosophy well enough to poke holes in it, if they can engage with people who don't understand philosophy well enough to respond to what is identity, non-contradiction, and excluded middle, they can appear to be in an intellectually superior position when to, well, what's that t-shirt? Those of you who think you know everything are incredibly annoying to those of us who do. I don't know everything, but I know this. And I know it way better than the people who are trying to say that, oh, that violates the law of non-contradiction. They have a gross conceptual error about what those laws even mean. And it's fine, because everybody has made those mistakes in the process of going from I don't understand anything about philosophy to now I understand a great deal. And there are people who know vastly more than I ever will or ever care to. But in much the same way that there are probably biologists who know more about biology than Erica does, it's unlikely that we're going to find out that Erica is fundamentally wrong about what she knows. And in fact, the world was created 6,000 years ago. That would be incredibly shocking. And it's not supported by evidence. Currently, when that changes, well, we'll have to talk about that. But until it does, we're here. And this was a much longer opening than I expected. Please welcome Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels to the show. We just did the Sunday show together. Thank you for your patience in my long-winded appeals.
Yeah, no worries. I wanted to give +1s to some of your mentions. Justin's channel, Deconstruction Zone, or also DZ Debates. Excellent place to hang out. He, on the side, does like live streams with the likes of Kip Davis and Joshua Bowen to talk about slavery, and they read Hebrew together. They're all formally trained in it. Yeah, entertaining stuff to go watch. It's
nice.
Really great. Yeah.
It was my first day actually kind of getting to tune in because I don't spend the days doing that. But yeah, I enjoyed it for a while. It turns out, while I would definitely encourage people to go over and check it out, it's probably best if I don't do it because as I was reminded very quickly, I can't sit there and not comment.
Yeah, and I'm the same way.
But I also become a distraction because as soon as I say something, because I'm on YouTube under my own name, it's, ooh, Matt Dillahunty's in chat. You should call in. And I'm like, I'm sick. I'm just here listening for the first time ever. So my apologies for not being more familiar with them. But my appreciation to his the people in his chat for welcoming and to him for doing it. It was fun. It gave me not just an opening for today's show when I was sick, but also there's about 3 videos worth of content that are coming out of thoughts related to this afternoon's thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And his streams are extremely long. Like, he's a machine. I think he just went full time with his channel and his content. So, and he's like a machine. He'll go 5, 6, 7 hours, 3 times a week. It's a veritable gold mine of content. Another +1 I wanted to give you when you're talking about Phil Bros, I've noticed a kind of a pattern when it comes to philosophy bros, flat earthers, and like evolution, old earth denying, creationists. When they go get themselves formally educated, I'm saying this in general, I'm not saying this is universal, but I've seen this pattern. When these folks have a goal, have an agenda, have a pre-planned, pre-settled upon conclusion, and then they go get formally trained with the goal of supporting that conclusion, really weird things happen. And you can see the result of that when you go watch, say, like a flat earth debate channel or a flat earth debunking channel. Some of the stuff and the I guess logical short circuits that occur when they are trying to reason from some basic well-established presuppositions to the earth is flat, or to a god exists, or to the earth is old. Really, really weird stuff happens. There's a channel called The Sound of Science, which I really like because the guy has a very deep voice and he talks cool science stuff. He's been analyzing another channel where you can see a guy, he's trying. The guy's channel he's responding to, he's trying to explain why certain non-Christian positions are false, but completely misapplying the terminology. He uses terms like the theory of straw man or straw man theory when he's just trying to talk about a straw man fallacy. You can see the attempt, but you can look at it and go, well, hold on, the goal is wrong. The goal is not to use a process that is well established and accepted and sound to come to your conclusion. It's to shoehorn this process into your conclusion, or shoehorn your conclusion into the process. And like I said, just really weird stuff happens, and you can kind of see that pattern as you watch all these, this type of content. Fascinating stuff, but can be annoying to deal with because you're almost like on 2 different wavelengths. You need to sync up and talk about different terminology and processes and get all that synced up first before any type of conversation can really occur. It can be quite frustrating, but yeah, you make some good observations there when you were talking about that.
Yeah, this is something I spent a lot of time thinking about, especially because I care more about the philosophy than like Seth. Seth and I have had these conversations before as well. And listening to Justin today, I thought Justin made some really good points about, hey, it wouldn't make any sense for me to come into your stream and start using, electromechanical engineering terms to discuss something. I think it's a little bit off because, for example, if someone says, hey, for the purposes of this argument, I'm going to define motion as blah, blah, blah. One thing Justin did that I did not like was he went to the dictionary to say, no, here's what it means. So first of all, to Justin and everywhere else, dictionaries describe usage. Words are our plaything. And when it comes to logic and argument, the only thing that matters is what claim the person is making, and they get to define the label. And it is a complete waste of time to say, well, your definition of the label doesn't match the normative use because it's irrelevant. This is why I came up with labels like Fergalburgle. If the labels are getting in the way, throw them out. Instead of saying motion, say Fergal. So nothing can Fergal itself. What does Fergal mean? Fergal means this. Move from potential to actual. Okay. Then it doesn't matter whether there's a different usage of motion or whatever else. But it's important because if we're able to say, all right, here's my claim, here's how it's defined. What it's called doesn't matter anymore. The only time what something's called matters is if you and the person you're talking to have the same or nearly the same understanding and usage of that particular term. Until then, one of you could be speaking English and the other one could be speaking Spanish, and you might agree on what no means, but you might not agree on what sí means. And if you sit there talking about, no, sí means to look with your eyes and visually process the world, you're now talking past each other and just avoids getting to the actual argument. But we have calls, and I'm ready to take one if you are.
Absolutely. Let's do this.
So I'm going to start with Tristan from Missouri. Tristan's an atheist that believes that he's found the correct interpretation of the Bible using the scientific method. But Tristan, I have a weird question. Are you there?
Yes.
That wasn't the weird question.
Waiting.
Yeah. It says here you called in May under a different name to say you discovered the truth that Christians have been searching for.
Yeah, so I have been, and I felt weird about calling under my name the first time. I don't know why, but yes. I have been studying this and trying to find this. And back then, I felt like I was on the right track with this. And so I just wanted to share something. But I feel like now I have figured it out.
Okay.
The Bible is a parable. Sorry.
Okay. So, Tristan, why should any of us care what you think you've discovered about the Bible? And when you say that you did it using the scientific method, what do you mean? And is it possible for you to answer this call where I don't have to listen to kids in the background?
I'm sorry. Give me just a second. So I think it's important because it showcases how Christians do not actually take the Bible seriously. They don't actually, I'm not saying, to me, it seems like they don't actually believe that it's true. And by the scientific method, I mean, I had started positing different hypothetical interpretations. And I was, going through it, looking at the world around me through those interpretive lenses, poking holes in them, trying to figure it out. Because it seemed obvious to me, if there is some truth to the Bible, Christians, being as divided as they are, have not found it. And so, I have debated Christians online for half of my life. I've watched you a lot. Sorry, I'm really nervous and I'm ADHD, so I am getting a little overwhelmed. Okay. I apologize.
Okay. No. I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm going to say something and then I'm going to take a step back.
Okay.
You say that you found the correct interpretation using the scientific method. I want to know what the correct interpretation is and what method you use to understand the correct interpretation. But virtually
Okay.
everything you're saying sounds to me like you've discovered that Christians can be hypocrites. That has nothing to do with the scientific method.
Yes.
And you've
Yeah, I
discovered
know.
that Christianity includes conflicting views among conflicting people, which is also
Yep.
not, there's no scientific method required. And this is also
Yep.
something most of the rest of us discovered long time ago and that we've always known. So what's the point and what is the correct interpretation?
I think that the correct interpretation of the Bible should actually lead to atheism and skepticism. I think that it is a parable that warns about the dangers of religion and blind faith, not that you should blindly worship a god.
How much of the Bible have you read?
I mean, I thought to myself, why should I? And
I don't understand.
admit I've not.
I don't understand. I don't understand how I can ask a question like, "How much of the Bible have you read?"
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And it's very clear that you're not answering the question.
Yeah, I apologize. I've not read it cover to cover. I have read quite a bit of the Bible.
Have you studied it in Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic?
I thought to myself, why should I let Christians set the rules? Like, this is the way it's been interpreted for so long.
I'm sorry, that's also not an answer to my question. Did you study it in Greek,
No,
Hebrew, and
I
Aramaic?
haven't.
Okay. Did
No,
you look
I haven't.
into the actual history of the various religions that have been derived out of here? How both the people reading it and the church elders, and almost certainly the people who wrote it, sincerely believed it or believed chunks of it. The notion, you've basically constructed a conspiracy theory that 66 books written by a variety of authors over a great many years come together for a cohesive secret message that try to teach people to not believe in God. Are you fucking kidding me?
I know how crazy that it sounds. And I don't know the best way to explain it. But
maybe in a way where
like
it doesn't sound ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. And I'm sorry. Okay. I guess I'll work on it a little more and I will.
Why? Because it sounds to me like you, like the Christians I was just talking about, now have a problem, a goal that you are seeking to justify. You are going to go out now and try to lead more evidence in the direction you prefer rather than following the evidence where it leads. It sounds to me like you are basically just saying, I'm going to go do the very thing you guys were just suggesting is a really bad idea because I didn't do a good enough job this time in defending a conspiracy theory. Why not just say, hey, do I have any reason to think that this is true?
I mean, I feel like I do.
What reason do you have that leads you to believe that the most reasonable conclusion is that this particular collection of books written over a massive amount of time is in fact a secret message to suggest that people shouldn't believe, like a secret skepticism lesson? What is your reason for thinking that's likely?
The first thing I thought was we treat the Bible so differently from any other book. Why? It's like if I'm just reading a story, if I just read this, like I had no knowledge of the history or the religious doctrine, and I just read it and see what it said. And even in the Bible, it says that anyone who says that their message is from God or their burden is from God is a liar and a false prophet. All Christians do is say that their message, their Bible, their morals, everything is from God.
So you're going to take
if the
that
Bible
verse.
is true-
So you're going to take that verse seriously and literally, but not others. That's kind of fucking convenient, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tristan, I'd like to ask maybe a couple of questions about your motivation here. Did you used to be a Christian or a Bible believer?
I mean, I would say that I never really took it seriously when I first started as a teenager reading it. I always I thought, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to read this, and I very quickly deconverted. I always I never understood why people interpreted their own meaning into it instead of just listening to what it says.
Okay, I got my answer there. I'm actually going somewhere with this. And okay, so it sounds like you were a believer to some degree, and then in your teenage years you started questioning it, and then you started looking at it, and then at some point you stopped believing. Yet you seem,
I would say, I was a believer in the sense that it was a default. Like, it was considered the default, I guess, where I grew up. Not that I ever necessarily took it seriously.
Yeah, that's a result of the culture you grew up in. It was the same thing for me. I mean, I grew up in a dominantly Christian country, so it's quote unquote the default, it seems. So I guess my question is, why aren't you doing this with other books? Why don't you do this with the Quran or the Book of Mormon or some other abstract or some other like esoteric, relatively unknown religious text out there? Why are you like fixated on the Bible? And the reason I was asking about your past is because it could be, and I'm not trying to tell you what you're thinking, but I'm wondering, do you still harbor doubts about your deconversion? Do you still harbor worries about the Bible, and you want to like just completely drive a stake through the heart and get rid of these doubts? And that's why you're engaging in this, what I think is a wasteful exercise. Let's put it that way. Like, why do you even want to do any of this? Why not do as Matt suggested, and that is reserve belief on anything. Don't worry about things until there's evidence demonstrated, shown to you that you should believe it or you should worry about it. Why are you going at it from the other end?
Because Christianity is a religion that spreads so much hate in my country and throughout history. The history of Christianity is so antithetical to the teachings of Christ. Completely antithetical.
Whoa.
Slavery, witch trials, segregation, lynching in the streets, burning scientists, burning non-believers. That is not like representative of the teachings of Christ. It is completely antithetical.
Tell us more about Christ, buddy.
I'm just basing it on what the Bible says about Christ. He's a humble servant.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You're basing it on the glurge you've heard from people who want to portray a particular version of what Jesus was or wasn't. And it may or may not be accurate. Plus, there may or may not be a person there at all to point to. You have fallen prey. You have fallen prey to the pop culture. Jesus was a liberal, progressive, hippie socialist who just wanted people to love each other, and you've conveniently ignored the other aspects of it and all the things that must necessarily be the case for the book to have any value at all. You are basically a dilettante that knows nothing and thinks you found the secret to Christianity, and that the secret is it's actually a conspiracy to teach skepticism. This is cartoonishly, laughably beyond ridiculous.
Because Tristan, here's the other thing too. So you're referencing what Jesus actually taught, and setting aside that we have no way to determine whether the writings of the Gospels actually depict what Jesus taught. Let's just assume that
I'm not necessarily saying what he actually taught. I'm just saying what the Bible says.
If we don't, well,
you don't know what the Bible says he taught. You haven't fucking read it.
The Bible says Jesus said that he didn't come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it, the Mosaic law. And the Mosaic law is full of crazy, heinous, obscene things regarding slavery and things regarding the treatment of women on their wedding night and other things. Like Jesus specifically said, these laws stay. He endorsed those laws in the Bible. And we can't now today say, oh, Jesus had these fluffy, lovey commands that we must follow, when he went also and said, hey, we need to obey these old laws that treated these people so badly. Like you have a bit of a distorted idea or a slanted idea about what Jesus represents. And here's the thing too, we don't even know what the authors actually intended when they wrote these books and when they copied from each other about these books. We don't know the actual intent behind it. So I think you are taking this preconceived notion of what Jesus is or was or should be, and then trying to shoehorn the Bible into that, or actually try to like paint Christianity a bad light to do that, in an effort to, I'm guessing, deconvert people or get them out of Christianity. And I don't think
ChatGPT is not going to help you.
Yeah, I don't think this is a good approach. You aren't going to convince Christians out of their religion using something like this.
You called back in May to say that you discovered the truth that Christians have been searching for, the truth that will set us all free. Is this the same truth?
Yes.
How do you know it's true?
Just because I look at it just like a story. And I
don't care how you look at it, Tristan. Tristan, I asked you, how do you know it's true? You've called in back in May, and now here it is 2.5 months later, and you're calling back in to tell me the same truth again. What new thing have you learned in the last 2.5 months that confirms the truth that you thought you had then is in fact true? What have you done in the last 2.5 months to confirm that this is truth? Because you're calling in to tell us what the truth is, and I want to know. I suspect that you don't actually know it to be truth. You've just convinced yourself that you found something significant, and it provides you comfort and eases your discomfort with how you and others could be duped. And you think you found a secret message that makes it special, makes you special, because you found the message that other people missed. And it's going to be so important, and it's going to change the world.
I'm just saying that I see the narrative archetypes that are depicted in the Bible, depicted in the world as well.
Yes. And if all I had was the limited hammer that you have, I would see those nails too. Unfortunately, I have more than just that hammer.
And seeing the narrative archetypes in the Bible that we see in the world makes sense, because the Bible was written by people from the world, just like any other book. Tristan, it feels like that you have a propensity to see patterns and want to explore them. And that's kind of something all humans do. But it feels to me, like just from our limited conversation, it feels to me that you kind of got this in overdrive and you're trying to take this way further than you should.
I definitely agree. I feel really, really anxious right now, and
how would you ever hope to demonstrate that you are in fact correct, that this is true? What is the testable, falsifiable effort that you can do that could possibly show that your marginally informed armchair speculation is in fact true?
I don't know.
I
don't either. Don't call me back until you find it.
And okay. Tristan, I just don't be offended this, but I just want to suggest this because I have somebody in my family that I love very dearly, and this person has a tendency to obsess over certain things. I'm not going to go into more detail than that because I don't want to give this person away or anything like that. But this person has a tendency to fixate on something. And that gets going in their brain, and it goes round and round and round. They obsess about it. They try to explore different avenues and paths and such. And it's something they can't turn off. And this has gone on for like 10, 20 years now. Like it's a chronic thing. It's just the way the brain is wired for this person. This improved for this person when they went to therapy and went to see a counselor and started talking about it with a professional to not discuss the solutions to the problem that their brain is presenting, but to talk about why the brain is doing this in the first place. Is that something you have ever considered doing?
No.
I suggest you try that. Because if you feel like you are spinning your tires and seem to be going down all these roads, and you have like some type of special input or special knowledge about these things that nobody else can see, it could potentially be that your brain is doing something really odd there, and you need to go talk to a professional about it. And I say that with all the compassion in the world. I'm not trying to belittle your thinking or anything like that, but this is reminding me of my family member, and I hope that that's not the case with you. But if it is, you should seek some help.
Okay, I appreciate that.
All right, Tristan. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
When you come up with a way to falsify this thing, you can call me back about it. Until then, probably better to just call in about stuff that isn't like, I had an idea and it's a book report, but let's figure out how we could actually demonstrate something is true. But also, why are we going down this road in the first place? Because the last point I'll make on this is that there have been billions of sincere believers. It is one of the most overwhelming and monopolizing religions that has ever been on the planet. But it's not the only one. And as someone who used to sincerely believe it, and as the world's foremost experts on the book do not agree with your armchair assessment that 66 books written over a number of different years were all put together to promote skepticism, when, I don't know, what's wrong with just promoting skepticism? Anyway, we've gone down that road. We'll see you later, Tristan. Thanks.
Yeah, I latched onto that too when he was painting Christians with this broad brush of, I think they all think this is nonsense, or they all think that it doesn't hold water. And I was like, nah, we don't know that. Like, I was a true believer, Matt. I'm confident you were a true believer. Many, 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 many true believers out there. We can't just sit back and say, because I see the Bible this way, everyone else must see the Bible this way as well, and they're just hiding it. That's the same logic that a Christian apologist would say, all atheists are actually believers. They're just in self-denial about it. No, we can't go down that road, because we can understand why that doesn't work. So we don't want to even touch that. We just go for real reasons why people shouldn't believe, not these made up reasons why people shouldn't believe.
Yeah. I'm an atheist because I was a Christian, because I was a sincere believer, because I took 1 Peter 3:15 to heart, because I felt an obligation to be prepared at all times to give a reason for the faith that was within me, because I felt that there was a God that was empirically justified. And I found out I was wrong. Not about whether or not there's a God. I have no idea. I have no reason to think there is. I actively think there isn't, and I think some gods are easily dismissed and disproven. I can't say that necessarily universally. What I can say is that there is no good reason to think that anywhere there isn't a being that qualifies as a God that gives the slightest fuck about any of us. There is not evidence for that proposition. There are claims and suspicions, and none of it is consistent with the acts of what an actual, loving, benevolent, wise being would engage in. But let's see, because there's people who disagree. So like Natalie's calling in. Natalie's pronoun is Batman. That's not a pronoun, but Natalie says the Bible is real, God is real, Jesus is real, and what you're spreading is bad for people to hear. Natalie, welcome to the show. Why is it bad for people to hear about the nature of evidence and the burden of proof? I'm sorry, Batman, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello. I'd say that it's bad because Jesus warns us of the false teachers, and that's like clearly what you guys are doing.
How do you know that Jesus warned us about anything?
Because it's in the Bible.
How do you know that what the Bible says is accurate to what Jesus said?
Because it's a testimony. They are there. It's fact. They saw everything.
Okay. So you're aware that there's not a single book in the Bible that Well, so for example, who do you think was there, and why do you think they have accurately reported what Jesus said?
Jesus says the disciples are there. He
Okay.
prepare all four Gospels, mostly what he says.
No. So the thing is, all the Gospels, we have no originals. They're anonymous. And let's assume for a second that they were actually written by Matthew, Mark, and Luke, even though we have no reason to think that's true. And let's assume that they were eyewitnesses, even though the Bible scholars suggest that they aren't written by eyewitnesses because they rely on each other. Well, let's assume, just for the sake of your argument, that the Gospel of Matthew was in fact written by an eyewitness, and he accurately reported what Jesus said. Why does that matter? Why does it matter that Jesus said something?
Because Jesus is the Son of God.
How do you know that?
Because it literally says that in the Bible.
Yeah, so here we are. You're using the Bible to prove the Bible. That doesn't work. I am God, Natalie. Prove me wrong.
Producer here popping in. Natalie, how old are you?
You're not God. God wouldn't be leading people away.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm not sure if the caller can hear me. Can we clarify age before
Natalie,
we continue?
The producer is asking a question. How old are you?
19.
I don't believe you, but I'll take your word for it. How could you and I establish whether or not you're 19?
I could show you my driver's license, but I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Cool. How do you know I'm not God?
Because you're not. Why would you lead people away from something
I'm sorry, Natalie. That's neither an argument nor evidence. That's you stating again that you don't think I'm God. The purpose here is that you're saying that the Bible says things and you believe them. Well, congratulations. I need a reason why I should believe what the Bible says. I used to. I don't anymore.
The Bible also calls the false teachers, and if someone is claiming they're God, then I would also call them a false teacher.
Natalie, this isn't going to go very well for you because I'm asking you how we know something, and you just keep coming back with what the Bible says. Are you aware that I was studying to be a pastor? I was a fundamentalist Christian for the bulk of my life. I've read the Bible multiple times, studied it in Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, even though I'm not an expert in those languages, but I've spent my entire life doing this. Do you think there's anything that's in the Bible that I haven't heard before?
I think you've probably heard everything.
Cool. So when I ask you, how do we know it's true? Why would you tell me something else that you think is in the Bible? I want to know how it's true, not what it says. I already know what it says.
God made the Bible. God inspired people to write the Bible.
Natalie, how do you demonstrate that God inspired the Bible and that it's accurate?
It's literally taught, and you can see like God all around you, and there's morals.
No,
Natalie,
is this a prank call for did you want a clip or recording? Because genuinely, I don't care if you're 19 or 12. First of all, you go quiet when I actually speak, which I don't think too many sincere believers are going to be doing. But also, every single time I ask you a question,
respectful.
Okay, well, fuck your respect. Let's get to answers. How do you know that what the Bible says is true?
Because God says it is. Jesus says it is.
How do you know that God says the Bible is true? Where does God say the Bible is true?
There's prophecies.
No, where does God say the Bible is true?
God doesn't say the Bible is true, but there's evidence that discovers
I'm sorry, Natalie, but literally, if you rewind this, you just said not 30 seconds ago that God says the Bible is true. And when I asked you, where does God say the Bible is true? Now you're saying God doesn't say the Bible is true. So you're a liar, right?
No.
Did you lie when you said God said the Bible is true?
No.
Then did you lie when you said God doesn't say the Bible is true?
Okay, he actually does say, he doesn't mention the Bible specifically.
Oh.
He does say that the Bible is true.
So which one of those two, you made a statement that God says the Bible is true, and you made a statement that God doesn't say the Bible is true. Which one of those was the lie?
the Bible isn't true.
Natalie, you said God said the Bible is true, and you said God doesn't say the Bible is true. It's not possible for both of those statements to both be true, correct?
Okay, I take back what I just said.
We're not here to do takesy-backsies. We're here to find out which one was a lie, and how do we know?
Well, why don't you look up 2 Timothy 3:16?
I don't need you to go to Timothy. I need you to explain which one of your statements was a lie and why you decided to lie instead of actually answering the question.
I didn't
You know what?
lie.
You did
thought I
lie,
was
and you're
wrong.
continuing to lie now, and now I no longer care what you have to say. So if you were here as a genuine representative of the risen Christ, you're a shitty representative of Christ because you're a liar.
I am a representative of Christ.
You're a terrible representative for Christ because you don't know what you're talking about. You refuse to answer the questions, and then you lie, and then you lie about lying. I don't like liars.
I made
Goodbye.
a mistake.
Nope, you lied. Your mistake was lying, and then lying about your lying. All right, let's try this again. Michelle is a theist, pronouns she, her, from New York. And Michelle saying she leans towards theism because the universe coming into existence without supernatural powers is more of a miracle than with. Why is it less miraculous for there to be supernatural anything?
Well, good question. And
I know.
I thought you might go there first. And I would like to say, I'd like to maybe change up one little thing. It is, because I don't want to say that the universe being here without the creator God is more miraculous, because that's like bringing the supernatural into something that would be created by natural means or be here all extensively or extensively through a natural source. But I think because all the myriad of life and just different arrays of everything
Okay,
that's on the planet, the universe.
Michelle, listen. I'm going to take a step back because I've already been irritated by two callers. Just listen to me. Listen to me. Don't say anything for a minute. I'm going to take a step back because I've already been irritated by the last two callers. You just puked out a bunch of incoherent terms. Oh, it's a myriad this, a myriad that. You called in. I'm bad at this part here, but Eric is great at it. I would like Eric to figure out what your point is, because what you originally said, you've already retracted. And then in your attempts to formulate a new version, you just spewed a bunch of things that literally, if we typed it out, would not be a coherent sentence. It would be like what that Miss America pageant person said, or what Trump says almost every day. You threw out the word myriad and other stuff. Let's pause. You are claiming that the universe coming into existence are you claiming it's more likely if there's a supernatural being, or that there has to be a supernatural being, or something else?
More likely.
Okay. Eric?
All right. So, Michelle, from what I was gathering, your statement here is that you lean towards theism because the universe coming into existence without supernatural powers is more of a miracle than with. Why do you consider the universe coming into existence, whether we can talk about whether that's like a good way to put it or not, let's put that aside. Why do you consider that a miracle? Can you give me like 3 or 4 bullet points? Why is that a miracle?
Now, I'm no scientist, so I won't go spouting off science that I don't know nothing about. Now,
that's fine.
Just give me the bullet points. World. Yeah, I look around at the world and I go, gee, we've got black holes, we've got suns, we've got things that, I mean, if we were standing at right before the sun, we have no idea what that would look like because it would be the sun.
So you're impressed at what we see. What's the second bullet point?
I'm impressed by evolution because I think God set up evolution and the fact
that's the first point. You're impressed at. So Michelle, that's still in the first point. You're impressed at what you see. We'll call the first point, I'm impressed at everything I see. What's your second point?
Okay. I I'd say I have no 2-second points because it is
that's
so
it.
hard to prove theism, and
So
like it
so
is so hard
the
to prove theism.
universe. So the universe is impressive, therefore requires a supernatural creator. Is your God more or less impressive than the universe?
Only more impressive that he can create one. Only more impressive.
So
by the
he's
fact
more
that he can
impressive.
create one.
All right, so
Yeah.
he's more impressive than the universe. You're saying it takes a miracle to create something this impressive, or for something this impressive to come into being or to exist or whatever. Yet you are taking that logic and completely throwing it out for your God. Why are you doing that?
How am I throwing the logic out for my God? I don't see that.
Do you think, because you're saying it's a miracle that this universe exists because it's so impressive, but if your God is more impressive, then it's an even bigger miracle that he exists.
Yeah.
So it defeats your
So
own
would you
argument
say
here.
it's like, where
It's a
do
bigger
where
it's a
would you-
bigger it's a hold on, Michelle. It's a bigger miracle that your God exists than it is just the universe existing.
Yeah. Are you
So
saying it's
you're
like
right.
where did God come from part? It's the God of the gaps. Where did
I'm not
God
even
come
asking.
from?
I'm not even asking any of that. I'm saying that your statement is self-refuting.
I see. I think you're right. Yeah, I see. Well, I'm sorry if I wasted your time, Matt. And
No, it's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
I'm sure. No, don't apologize. It's fine. If you came here genuinely and this was your genuine thoughts, I'm absolutely happy to discuss it with you. Hopefully you gain something out of it and some folks in the audience gain something about it. Nothing to apologize about. But if that's all you got, then we can move on.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to, like a regular, normal person, to make sense of what I believe, and you know, when I encounter something that says no, your belief is wrong, I take it and I say, gee, that's right. I'm still, I guess, still
Here's the thing.
punching the theist card.
Here's the thing. Matt and I are not sitting here saying, no, you are wrong. We don't know what actually created the universe. We don't know if there's actually a God or not. What we are pointing out is that the logic people use to get to the God conclusion is riddled with problems. And it puts people in a position of holding on to a God belief, thinking they're justified in doing that, but they really aren't. That's what we're pointing out. And that's why we ask the questions we do. So I'm not telling you you're wrong. It could be possible that you are right, but you're not going to get to it with the logic you just used. And as far as we know, nobody has presented to us logic that does get us to that conclusion.
Yeah.
I have a thought that might prove helpful in the future, Michelle.
What's that?
Is there any event that could ever occur that isn't more likely to occur if there's a magical being that wants it to occur and can make it occur?
Can I answer with I don't know?
Well, okay. Let's say you decided to call in today, right? Is that more likely if there's a God who wants you to call in and inspires you to call in than if there's not a God who wants you to call in?
I'm still at 50-50, Matt. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I don't know how you can be at 50-50 because if there's a being that can do anything and is in control of everything.
I don't believe my God can do anything.
I don't believe you have a God. I didn't ask about your God. This is the first time I'm hearing about your God. Why do you have a God?
Well, I didn't. I more mean the God that I believe in. That's like
What God do you believe in? What are the characteristics of the God you believe in?
I believe in a God that is not maximally powerful and that maybe sometimes.
Okay, no, Michelle, I don't need you to tell me what your God isn't. I need you to tell me what your God is.
He is a somewhat powerful God to a certain extent, and sometimes he intervenes, and sometimes he doesn't.
Okay. How do you know he's a he, and how does his intervention detectable at all?
I only said he colloquially because I wouldn't know how else to refer to a God.
Why doesn't your God let you know how to refer to him?
I certainly wish he did because I'm an anti-theist.
You're an anti-theist, so you actively believe there are no
Well,
gods?
certainly.
Okay.
No. I mean,
Michelle-
I'm an anti-theist in that I
No,
don't like
Michelle,
formal
Michelle,
religions.
no, that's okay. You're convinced that a God exists who is somewhat powerful and sometimes does stuff and sometimes doesn't. And you acknowledge that you have no way of detecting when it does something and when it doesn't, right?
Mhm.
How did you detect this God in the first place?
Some form of a priori knowledge. That's the best what I
Goodbye.
can really lean on.
Goodbye. I can't take you seriously. I did this whole thing earlier today about philosophy bros. Michelle is she's not a philosophy bro, a philosophy chick. She's not anything like that. But she's also not sincere or clueful, because you don't drop things like a priori knowledge or I'm not a scientist, but as if any of us needed to be told you aren't a scientist. You don't present your case and then the instant somebody offers the first minor suggested hint that your logic is unreasonable, you just, I just change. I'm the kind of person that changes my mind. If you haven't spent 2 seconds, this is a cartoonish thing. You are not sincere. I don't believe it. I have more respect for theists than to think you were in any way representing them. All right, let's try this.
Yeah.
Somebody saying, the name here is Finally Catholic. Theist pronouns him says the Gospels were not originally anonymous. Okay.
Hey,
Hey, Finally Catholic, who said they were?
You guys said that like 20 minutes ago, didn't you? 10 minutes ago?
No, I said that they are anonymous. They weren't. I'm not saying they were originally anonymous. Whoever wrote them knew who it was, and perhaps the first person that received them knew who the author was. But they're not signed, and we have no indication of who actually wrote them. They are currently anonymous.
So you said they're not signed. That's not accurate.
Correct.
According to the early manuscripts, right? Every early manuscript has
I'm sorry, but the earliest manuscripts for the Gospels are unsigned. We have no originals.
That every single manuscript we have has the attribution at the top. We don't have one without it.
No. I'm sorry, Finally Catholic, but you've been misinformed. The copies of the Gospel that we have names attributed for them from them as a matter of church tradition. There are no originals. There are no signed copies. And the first 3 Gospels do not even claim who the author is. That is attributed afterwards by the church. But let's assume for a second. Why? I don't know why you're talking over me. And that's never going to fucking work. Let's assume that all 4 Gospels were actually, as I did in the last call or 2 calls ago, they were written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Let's just assume that you're correct. And we'll assume that we have originals. Neither of those are true, but we'll assume both of those. So what? What does that tell us?
So the claim I was going to say is I think that you can actually say that they weren't anonymous. And that was the claim I said that was coming on here to talk about. If you're interested in hearing the case for it.
I don't give a shit about your case because it's irrelevant and it's not true. The fact of the matter is that the earliest and best manuscripts, this is not an atheist take on this. Stop fucking talking over me. It's never going to work.
Okay.
What is your obsession with not, never mind, I'm going to mute you and you'll get to talk when I'm absolutely, completely done. Maybe. New Testament scholars, Christian and non-Christian, are in agreement. There are entire books written about the authorship of various manuscripts. We don't have originals. The oldest ones we have are not signed. It is church tradition that put Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John on there. It doesn't matter whether or not we have originals because they're not signed. We don't know whether or not the originals might have been signed. But even if we knew exactly who wrote them, and even if we could go back, even if we could interview them about what they wrote and why, none of that would in any way establish the truth of their claims. But if in fact their claims are true, we now have a situation where there is a God who came down and took human form and inspired people to write books write letters about this event because it was important to everybody. And that God failed to preserve with any integrity the chain of custody for those writings. The chain of custody for those writings has not been preserved. If this were a case in a court of law, it would be thrown out as fruit of a poisonous tree. When you call in to suggest they weren't originally anonymous, that's like saying my car, the car we found down the street where the VIN number has been scratched off, it used to have a VIN number. We fucking know it used to have a VIN number. We know somebody wrote it. We know somebody knew who wrote it. But nobody today has any justification for claiming they know who wrote any of them. There are people who think they can suspect and make a case for it. But I'm not interested in their speculation. I want somebody to explain to me how there's an all-knowing, all-powerful God that inspires the books and fails to preserve the chain of command and fails to interject and intervene to say, no, these are in fact reliable or unreliable. Even if they were eyewitness copies signed and attested to by 5,000 other eyewitnesses, that still would not show that what they say is true. And it's an embarrassing fact that is damning for Christianity. Can you resolve that issue?
Can I ask you a question first?
Can you resolve that issue?
I can try. I think the question I would ask is, when you say that the church put the current titles on there and that no matter where the manuscript is from, it was not the original, why do we think that?
Because there's a record of church fathers putting those on by name and noting that it was tradition, and there are no original copies.
Why, no matter what country it was in, from Spain to India, are the names the same on the early manuscripts, I guess?
Because the earliest manuscripts included that attestation. The church tradition started with that attestation. That doesn't in any. Does the fact that the early church says a particular gospel was written by Matthew, does that mean it was?
It's more like even if the oldest physical documents are found.
Here's the thing. This is the problem with you dishonest fucking apologists. I asked the question and I phrased it very fucking clearly. And you know that if you answer it honestly, the conversation.
I'm happy to answer.
Shut up. You know that if you answer it honestly, the conversation is not going to go the way you want. So instead of answering it honestly, you begin to answer it dishonestly. Well, I have zero fucks left to give for dishonest motherfuckers. The truth is that you didn't answer that question honestly, and I suspect it's because you know. I
think you're giving whole syllogisms rather than asking one question at a time, right? Like,
I think you're a fucking liar because I asked you a simple question about whether or not you could solve that problem that I raised. And instead, you decided that you wanted to ask a question. And I entertained your question, and I asked you a question. Does the fact that the earliest records attribute a gospel to Matthew mean that it was in fact written by Matthew? Yes or no?
Not necessarily. You're right.
No. See, this is the problem. I just called you out for your fucking dishonesty. And then when I forced you like a child because you're undeserving of adult conversation to answer yes or no, you couldn't fucking do that. You had to stick in your little thing. We already knew you were going to do it. Nobody needed you to add that. We already know that your opinion is no, not necessarily, but you couldn't help not adding it. So I give up.
Fact by itself, yeah. But
no.
Eric's take on this? I think you're speaking very rudely.
So, okay, here's the thing. I was just getting ready to say, I'm going to take a back seat again and let Eric do this because he's good at it. But you're an annoying prick who thinks you can run my fucking show after lying to me. So I'm not going to turn this one over to Eric. Goodbye. Pro tip. if you can't be honest in answering the questions, don't see if you can pass it over to the co-host. I'll do that. Why do Catholics lie? Why do Catholic apologists lie? Why can't they just acknowledge the truth? The truth is that the Gospels were attributed with names that may or may not be accurate. We don't know. The truth is that they may or may not have been inspired by God. We don't know. The truth is they may or may not be accurate. We don't know. But apologists can't acknowledge that we don't know. Because if there's doubt, the entire foundation of their belief goes away.
Yeah.
If Christ be not risen, our faith is in vain. And if the Bible be not reliable, the confidence that Christ is risen is not reliable. If the Bible be not confirmable, the reliability of the Bible is not confirmable. This is the damning problem here. And it would have been so much better if you'd have just acknowledged it and said, I'm convinced that it was written by so-and-so because of this, because, but you have no other writings of Matthew to compare it to. You have no other writings of Mark to compare it to. You have no other writings of Luke to compare it to. So even when it comes down to analyzing the writing patterns, you can assess which things were probably written by one author or two authors. That's how we know that out of all the writings in the Bible attributed to Paul, we have pretty good reason to suspect that we know which ones are really by Paul or the same author and which ones are not, including one that specifically claims, I'll paraphrase, this isn't a forgery, this was really written by Paul, when it probably wasn't. So it's funny that yet another Catholic got their knickers in a twist over a claim that contradicts what they were taught in church, and yet will not defend the position that they're advocating for. It's very tiring.
One of the big things about the Gospels that I find really fascinating, and I think probably watching the likes of Apologia and his interviews with Bart Ehrman and other various scholars, is that there is a lot of mystery around the Gospels because we don't have original manuscripts. We have a lot of church tradition trying to tell us what to think about it, but as we established earlier, the church tradition isn't reliable, especially when it comes to things like, if it was just normal books that didn't have any supernatural claims inside of it, okay, fine. Church tradition can tell us that we have this author here. We can maybe increase confidence in it a little bit if the supernatural claims weren't there. But the fact that the books contain supernatural claims, that's going to be lowering our confidence in just about anything anybody has to say about it, unless we're getting information directly from the source. If we had an original manuscript, like the original, and it says, written by Mark, and then it goes into the text, something like that would be much better than what we have right now, because right now, what we don't have are original manuscripts. We have lots of evidence that there was a lot of internal discussion and dialogue among the early church leaders about who wrote what and who knew who and all this stuff. And it's a big mess that we have to, that it's fascinating to study, but it's really hard to draw any definitive conclusions out of. And you can go over to like Bart Ehrman's website and check out his blog. He has numerous articles on this kind of stuff. In fact, while Matt and Catholic were talking, I was reading his post on why are the Gospels anonymous? And he has a bunch of reasons in there why it is generally considered that these were anonymously written. Setting aside the fact that they copied from each other, setting aside the fact from they drew from other extra biblical sources for like certain motifs and things like that, just looking at the facts, they are anonymous from our perspective. They may have not been anonymous when they were first written. They may have not been written anonymously in the strictest sense, but times change and we lost that information and now they are anonymous. That's how it is.
It's also not out of the realm of possibility that they were originally anonymous. That in fact, somebody passed around without knowing who it was, and that somebody said, oh, this one was from Matthew. And then, because you don't have any way to investigate that, people took it and ran with it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, it's not a big deal because the writings of Socrates or anybody else, it's irrelevant whether we have originals because the content stands or falls on its own merit, no matter who said it. There either is a God or there isn't, no matter what I say and no matter what the Pope says. There either is a God or there isn't. Whether the gospel was written by Matthew, attributed to Matthew, that is all independent of whether or not there's any truth there. And that's why it's a big distraction. The only reason that we bother to bring up that these are anonymous is because the world's shittiest apologists keep suggesting that we have it on good authority from eyewitnesses. Well, first of all, no, we don't. But second of all, even if you told me these were eyewitnesses, you have no way to prove it, and you have no way to prove that they're correct. We know that eyewitness testimony is notoriously unreliable. But you can go to a website, go to earlychristianwritings.com. This is a great resource that goes through the various writings and talks about them and gives references, great references. So for the Gospel of Matthew, it talks about the estimated date range, and it has links to a bunch of scholarly articles. And it says, it's near universal position of scholarship that the Gospel of Matthew is dependent upon the Gospel of Mark. This position is accepted whether one subscribes to the dominant two-source hypothesis or instead prefers the Farrer-Golder hypothesis. It's also the consensus position that the evangelist was not the Apostle Matthew. The consensus position is that this wasn't written by Matthew, but I don't tend to make that claim because I don't know how you demonstrate for sure that it wasn't that person if we don't have some other writings. The reason that they think this wasn't written by Matthew is because Matthew, if he was there, wouldn't need to borrow from Mark. It's also, if you continue reading, such an idea that the gospel was not written by Matthew is based on the 2nd century statements of Papias and Irenaeus. As quoted by Eusebius, Papias states, Matthew put together the oracles of the Lord in the Hebrew language, and each one interpreted them as best he could. Irenaeus says, Matthew also issued a written gospel among the Hebrews in their own dialect, while Peter and Paul were preaching at Rome and laying the foundations of the church. We know that Irenaeus had read Papias, and it's most likely that Irenaeus was guided by the statements he found there. So the statement in Papias itself is considered to be unfounded because the Gospel of Matthew was written in Greek and relied largely upon Mark. So you have early church fathers saying Matthew wrote a gospel and he did so in Hebrew, but the Gospel of Matthew is written in Greek, which conflicts with the church father, and that church father is a 2nd century church father. So it's all a game of let me tell you, let me tell you, let me tell you, let me tell you, let me tell you. The Bible is a sanctioned collection of copies, of translations of copies, of oral traditions passed down from person to person, place to place, generation. There is no way to go back and verify the mundane details about daily life and the extraordinary events. But to the extent that we can try to explore those extraordinary events, there's no evidence the sun stood still in the sky. There's no evidence that the entire earth was flood. There's no evidence that Jesus lived, died, was crucified, and resurrected. There's no evidence of this census. There's no evidence for any of the critical aspects of this. If there were, do you think anyone would call in using a pseudonym about how they're finally Catholic and choose to focus on the false claim that the Gospels were written by Matthew instead of all of that actual evidence that confirms all the other stuff? This is what's happening in apologetics. They cannot come up with evidence or evidence-based arguments for any of the substantive claims. And so it all becomes, but we think that the gospel was written by so-and-so, when scholars don't, and others can't prove that it was. It is smoke and mirrors in the worst way.
If only this Christian God had the foresight to see all these conversations and confusion around the Gospels and just simply preserve the Gospels better, He could have just eliminated all this effort and just kind of made it very clear that, yeah, these Gospels were written by the authors they're attributed to. Yeah, these Gospels have corroborating evidence, contemporary corroborating evidence from the time showing that what happened in here is true. Like, for example, like, hey, maybe the Romans might have had some records about the zombie uprising when Jesus died. Things like, or the sky suddenly turning dark when Jesus died. Like, we have nothing. And these are things that a God concerned with preserving an accurate message and transmitting this message in its entirety and accuracy to everyone possible. This is something that a God could have easily have remedied. This is something that a God could easily have facilitated, so that it's undeniable that these stories are true, or that it's undeniable that the Bible is full of truth. And yet he didn't. So that gives me two options, or a few more than two options. I'll give you three. One is that God's not competent enough to do something like this. Two, the God doesn't care. Or three, and this is the one I go for, is that these are just man-made inventions and there is no God behind them. So you need to ask yourself, what's more plausible? We have a God that did all this, but he just wasn't quite good enough to get the job done, and he's just kind of falling short. Or like any other book, any other holy text, the Quran, the Vedas, whatever holy book you want to point to, it's just like those other ones, written by people trying to figure out the world. So you want to ask yourself, what's more plausible? And I go with the most plausible explanation, and that's just, it's human invention. And we can study it, we can be fascinated by it, we can learn all kinds of stuff from it, but don't take it as gospel.
All right, so we have more theist callers here. Weston is calling from Colorado, pronouns he, him, wants to tell us about the Bible and Jesus, and it says Southern Baptist. Weston, are you aware that I was a Southern Baptist and was studying to be a preacher?
I know that you were studying to be a preacher from you talking to Natalie, but I did not know that you were a Southern Baptist, no.
Okay, what is it you wanted to tell us?
Well, I know that you think that Jesus isn't real. You don't know if he is or isn't real, kind of thing. But
Weston, are you friends with Natalie?
No, I'm not.
How old are you?
I don't even know it. I'm 13.
Yeah, we're not going to take your call, and I apologize for having you on hold for so long. Please understand. Please understand. I have concerns. We're in desperate and dangerous times, and I've always been cautious, especially when dealing with other people's minor children. I would love nothing more than to treat you as an adult, which I'd do if you were here, and have the conversation. But when we have obvious minors calling into the show, it puts me in a position where I might have to hear from somebody's parents or grandparents or anybody else about how dare I, interact with their kid without permission. So my apologies that you sat on hold for so long. Feel free to send an email. And you can reach it.
All right,
okay.
so I understand it.
I don't have any way to know that.
Yeah,
but
I understand it.
Cool. Thank you.
All righty.
All right. Well, this is probably a quick one. John's calling from California, is an atheist who says, well, why not agnosticism? Hey, John, what do you mean, why not agnosticism?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much looking for clarification. As somebody who has recently deconverted from Christianity, I'm wondering, I recently came to an understanding of agnosticism versus atheism. And I know one is about belief and the other is about knowledge.
Which means there are no verses. In the same way that knowledge is a subset of belief, Gnosticism and agnosticism is a subset of theism and or atheism.
Right. So why would, if you could help me understand, why would atheists not claim to also be agnostic?
Many do.
Yeah, I do. But not all do.
And those that do not, what exactly is it that does that mean that they're not willing to be proven wrong?
No. Depending on the god, I might claim to be a Gnostic anti-theist about some gods that are logically contradicted, or gods that are absolutely in contradiction with observed facts of reality. I know that those gods don't exist in the same way I would know any other thing. I can't know that, if your God is untestable and unfalsifiable, belief cannot be justified. But also, if I were to claim that God doesn't exist, I would be claiming to falsify the unfalsifiable. So nobody needs to there's nothing wrong with saying I'm an atheist and not saying I'm agnostic and atheist. I'm just an atheist. I'm not convinced that a God exists. Or in some cases, I may be convinced that a God doesn't exist. But if somebody says, do you believe a God exists? And you say, I'm an agnostic, you didn't answer the question.
I understand. So another question on atheism. If somebody claims that they don't believe God exists, that's because they don't have sufficient evidence. They have never experienced God.
No, John, okay, you're going to list a bunch of reasons. When somebody says, I don't believe that God exists, they're saying, I'm not convinced that God exists. Could be any number of reasons. Could be because they don't have sufficient information. Could be because they believe something else that's in conflict and they're wrong. There are countless reasons why someone might not be a theist.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of what I was getting at. Someone may have any reason why they're atheist. But I guess my question to you is,
you could be a Steelers fan, and you might be a Steelers fan because you think they're the best team, or because you like the uniform, or because your mom told you they were best, or because your uncle, that was their favorite team. You can believe anything for good reasons or bad reasons. That the reasons are independent of the position.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Well, that helps a lot. I mean, that was easy.
Cool.
That's pretty much all I wanted to know. I guess I
Awesome.
assume that there are atheists that, in my opinion, they're not very logically atheist. Because I've heard in a lot of your conversations, I was interested to hear that, the reason, if I'm not wrong, that you are atheist is kind of similar to the scientific method, where it's like, it's things are tested,
I'm an atheist.
in order.
I'm an atheist.
Sure.
I'm an atheist because I'm a skeptic, and because the claim that a God exists has not met its burden of proof. There are plenty of atheists who are stupid and irrational, and
right.
There are people who are atheists who would run for office, and I would not vote. I'm not going to vote for somebody just because they're an atheist. I'm not going to like somebody just because they're an atheist. I have plenty of enemies who are atheists. There are plenty of idiots in this community that are atheists. I spend a good chunk of my time calling out and correcting other atheists like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris. And what was that other guy's name? Hector, whatever his name was, being wrong on trans issues and stuff like that, being anti-science. The fact that somebody doesn't believe in God is absolutely trivial. I'm not here to promote atheists or atheism. I'm here to stand up for skepticism, humanism, and principles like the separation of church and state, so that we don't end up with a fascist religious regime running the world. But it's too late, because that's pretty much what's happening.
Interesting. Got it. Well, that about answers my question. Thanks so much for giving me the time, and appreciate it.
I figured that one would be quick, and that Eric would have
John,
more fun with the next one.
Yeah, and John, if you're still listening, what you can do is, you probably have already done this, lots of people have, just go to Google and do a search for atheism, agnosticism chart, and look at the images. There's probably 20 different versions of the same thing that kind of shows you how belief and knowledge are different, and how they're two axes on the same graph. They aren't necessarily, they aren't mutually exclusive. So you can look at that and kind of go, okay, I think I am here, and then I'll give you an idea of what to label yourself if you're concerned with that. And also, I want to maybe also add is that the God claim itself is actually also really important when it comes to determining whether you're a Gnostic atheist or an agnostic atheist, because somebody can present to me a God, just a general deistic generic God, virtually no attributes other than he created everything. I'm going to call myself an agnostic atheist to that because I don't believe that God exists, but I have no knowledge that God doesn't exist. But on the other hand, if you present to me a God and you say, Eric, my God is a basketball and not a basketball at the same time, I'm going to say I am a Gnostic atheist to that because it violates the laws of logic. I have a reason to know why that God doesn't exist. So the label you assign yourself may shift slightly depending on the God claim being presented to you. So you might want to also keep that in mind as you go forward. But in general, for almost all God claims, I'm going to consider myself an agnostic atheist. I'm going to be non-believer, but I don't claim knowledge that God does not exist because of various reasons, depending on the claim. So be careful as you go forward, basically. There's like a little gotcha in there you want to avoid.
All right. We got 3 callers left. I'm saving... William, I'm going to save you for last. I hope you're on. I know you've been on forever, but we are going to prioritize theists. So Olivia's calling with no preferred pronouns. So we'll see what he has to say. But Christianity isn't just about believing in Jesus. It's built on the claim that Jesus rose from the dead. This is the concrete ground of faith. Cool. Olivia, you're on with Eric.
Hello?
Oh my gosh. Did you think we wouldn't know it was you right off the bat?
Yeah, my mic is weird, but hello.
Why are you calling back after we already let you go?
Yes, I banned this number because of the reasons that are very obvious. So we don't need to engage in this conversation any further. I'm dropping the call.
That's so disappointing because here's the problem there, banned caller. You fucking liar. I still don't believe you're fucking 19. I don't believe anything you say. I also don't believe you're a Christian. I think you're putting shit in a ChatGPT or sitting there with your friend and spewing out whatever it is, which is why when you called in the second time, you said you had a little boilerplate message about how, Jesus' resurrection is the concrete grounding of faith. Oh, yawn, fucking yawn. I don't know if your mom knows that you're on the internet, but they should take away your internet access. I'm happy. I have had conversations with people of all ages and all understandings. What is going on that you feel the need to call in and lie, but also present the most obvious pedestrian views that you have absolutely no capacity to defend or expound upon in any way? Like, it would be like you going to audition for a role as Trump and using the voice you just used and wearing a skirt and a Indigo Girls tank top and suggesting this was both your outfit for the Trump impression and your impression of Trump. I mean, it's like obvious. This is worse than the getting a phone call and it's like, is your refrigerator running? Because we all know, like, from the second you open your mouth, I wish I knew what was going on in people's heads. And with all the things going wrong in the world, I don't know. Kids going to be kids.
I think we're deriving so much more pleasure from the failed botched attempt to trick us than they are from trying to trick us.
Let's try this. Harold is calling from Canada. Harold's a theist that says he has proof that Satan is real. Harold, you are on with Eric.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. I have subjective proof that is ontological in relation to reality. In
Jesus
2007.
No, stop.
That was a sentence.
Stop.
That was a sentence of sentences.
I was going to say nothing. And just let Eric have this.
Oh, you are
Lonnie,
going to say
just
nothing. Okay.
mark this point as a clip because it absolutely broke my brain. The incoherent babble about the ontology of blah, blah, blah. Okay, Harold, you're on. What is your proof of Satan?
My proof of Satan is in the Bible it says that he's come to steal, kill, and destroy, and he does that at will. If he doesn't have anything to do, he's going to do what he's told to do by God himself.
Hey, Harold, what's Satan's kill count in the Bible? Do you know that number?
It's an astronomical number. I don't even know.
No, guess again. How many people in the Bible has Satan or the devil killed?
I know. I don't remember.
All right. If you knew your Bible, you would know that number is around 8. And that's Job's family specifically. Satan, the devil, the trickster, specifically asked God, I want to test Job. What can I do? And God says, you can go ahead and kill his family. So Satan killed Job's family in the Bible with God's explicit permission. Now, how many people in the Bible has God killed?
Well, at the time of the flood of Noah, it was all those corrupt humanity. All those people.
Everybody.
No. Don't try to qualify it and poison that well. How many people did God kill in the Bible? You mentioned the flood. That's definitely more than 8.
Yeah.
Do you know what is a sum total number in the Bible?
No, I don't really have it.
Okay, I'll give you this answer too. I'll give you this answer too. All right. Where numbers are specifically explicitly mentioned, like God killed this many thousand, God killed this many thousand, the number is like 2.5 million, I think. If you add in the estimates from things like the Tower of Babel, I'm sorry, not Tower of Babel, the flood, and like the Egyptian, the plagues upon the Egyptians, the estimate skyrockets to 25 million. So your claim is that the Bible says Satan brings death and destruction on the earth, but in the Bible, who's actually bringing death and destruction?
It could be anybody.
No, Harold, you know exactly where I'm taking. Harold, stop.
It could be coincidentally.
I'm sorry.
anyone.
I'm not letting you. Harold, I'm muting you here for a second. I'm sorry. You were doing so well up to that point when the question became uncomfortable. So please try again. Your claim is that Satan brings death and destruction according to the Bible. But really, according to the Bible, who is bringing more death and destruction, God or Satan?
Well, I would have to say, according to the Bible, God allows Satan to do this destruction.
See how you're trying to slip out of it there? God allowed Satan to kill 8 people. How many? And how does that compare to the 22.5 million or 25 million, depending on how you do the counting? How does that possibly compare? Your God in the Bible is an order of magnitude more murderous and destructive than Satan ever was.
Can I get my proof across? Can I get my proof across though?
I doubt you have a proof, but go ahead.
Okay, my proof is that we have humans that worship Satan, and they have influenced everyone from social media to people who haven't even heard of Satan. They somehow have this power to like poison their minds, basically.
Go take your meds.
Harold, for a moment, take the God out of it, take the Satan out of it. For a moment, what would be like a second explanation for that? Because you think Satan is poisoning minds. Pretend for a moment you're wrong about that. What else could be poisoning these people's minds?
Well, drugs and alcohol.
Sure.
Tobacco.
Sure. What about religion? Would you say Islam's? Would you say, Harold, that Islam is poisoning people's minds?
I would say that they have controversial issues, just as like the Bible does.
Things like honor killings and jihad, Like, do you think that concepts like that from a religion is poisoning people's minds?
Well, it could, but then you also have also explanations for why they think they should do that and practice this way.
They think they should do that because the religion, where they were convinced is that's true, tells them to do that. And we see over here on this side of the ocean, we see a lot of evils being done in the name of Christianity. So what's more plausible? Satan is actually driving this, or just the religions are driving this?
Well, could be both. Could be one or the other, depending on.
Sure, but I'm giving you the dichotomy. I'm giving you the choice of one or the other, and you have to bet money, Harold. You need to put down 10,000 of your own dollars. Is it Satan causing this, or is it just religions causing this?
Well, we're going to see if in the coming future.
Harold, that was a direct question. Please answer it.
Well, religion.
Where are you putting your money?
I think religion causes a lot of trouble in the earth.
So you and I there, we agree. Religion is what's causing these problems.
Yeah.
So why even add in the supernatural? Why do you even add in a Satan? Any of that when we know just the religions are doing it?
Yeah. Well, we could discuss. Well, I'm going to research this for another time, but
sure, that's fine.
My proof of Satan being real is I actually saw him and met with him.
Oh my fucking God. After all of that, now we get to your proof of Satan being real is that you actually saw him and met him. Was it Ozzy Osbourne?
No, that's just a man who passed away yesterday.
Yeah, I know who Ozzy Osbourne is. Here's my question. How do you know you met Satan?
How do I know that? Because everything he was saying to me correlated with what is evil. And I guess that's my proof.
Harold, do you think that there are people out there who have interacted? Do you think there are people out there who say they interacted with Satan, but really they were hallucinating?
Could have been that. Yeah.
Okay. Could have been that. Do you think that could have been the case with you?
I hope not.
Okay, well, that's not the question, though. Do you think it could have been? Is it a possibility that instead of actually speaking to an actual Satan, you just simply hallucinated?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you go about determining which one of those actually happened?
I would have to. Well, from what I remember, it's real. It felt real at the time.
Can a hallucination feel real?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that doesn't get you out of it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
All I know is in the Bible it says he's going to take over all the world.
Well, the Bible also says God killed. The Bible also says God killed 25 million people. So I think we might be at the end of the call here, Harold. You got some stuff to think about, and I wish you luck in that.
All right, thank you.
All right, have a good night.
I'm evidently terrible at this, and I don't mean that like in a self-effacing way. Like, all I was thinking is this is either a prank call or somebody who's desperately off their meds, and it's irresponsible of me to even engage. And I still don't know necessarily which one's accurate or whatever else, and it's absolutely irresponsible of me to suggest that somebody's off their meds, and it's I feel bad that that's where my head goes, but in all honesty, that's just what I end up thinking. It's not anything I can demonstrate. And so the frustrating thing is that you got him to acknowledge something, and then it didn't matter because it turns out he met Satan.
Yeah.
And then you get him to acknowledge that maybe he didn't meet Satan, maybe he was hallucinating. And it was just a yes to anything. The second there was any pushback or questions, yes. I feel like they're like on a leaf on the wind. They're the type of person that's just going to go with the last thing they thought or the last thing somebody told them or the last thing that made any kind of sense.
Kind of feels that way,
and
yeah.
On some level, I kind of understand that. I'm not at all trying to be mean to the person, but I mean, there are people, when they call in, I'm ready to have a reasoned discussion about something. And when it becomes clear that that's not going to happen, I just kind of have to move on. So I'm as always, I'm glad that Eric's here and able to get somewhere. The question is, did we actually get anywhere? Like,
yeah,
is Harold going to go off and sit down and be like, yeah, how would I demonstrate that? And then think of, oh, it's because what they said was evil. I told him that. And then go right back to the exact same thing.
Yeah, just
the follow-up questions, Harold, are, how do you know what's evil? How do you know what they told people? Is it possible for someone to tell you something that's evil and for them to not be Satan? I mean, here's the big question. Here's the one that would blow anybody's mind. How did you determine that God is the good one and Satan is the evil one? If God has written his moral code on your heart, then God will turn out to be the one that's in line with that moral code. But if Hitler wrote his moral code on your heart, Hitler's actions would be in line with that moral code on your heart, and you'd be saying Hitler was the good one, which evidently is something that people are just doing these days. I didn't get to watch all of it. We set it aside so I can do some reactions to it, but I did see a couple of clips because Mehdi Hassan went on a Jubilee thing.
Saw that.
With like 20 buckets of absolute fascists. It was, if you haven't seen it, it is unbelievable levels of, I still haven't watched the whole thing, so maybe it gets better at parts, but the clips that have been out there, I give up on the world.
According to Forbes, unsurprisingly, one of those participants has already been fired from their job. So they're already reaping the consequences.
And is asking for help. So this person who doesn't believe in democracy, who doesn't believe in the Constitution except for the Second Amendment, who's opposed to socialism, after being held responsible for having views supporting fascists and refusing to say that they condemn the Nazis for their treatment of the Jews, is engaged in, oh, well, it's okay for me. And socialism is okay for me. When you all want to give me money so that, to make up for this, that's okay for me. Oh, okay.
I take comfort in that. It's hilarious when somebody who's so against like societal help and socialism in some degree or another puts their hand out when they fall upon hard times, and they're like, give me money, because they don't understand. And I think he also demonstrated in his other words too. I think he said something along the lines of, I don't care that this will be done to other people, it will never happen to me. Then they turn around and they go, socialism should not be practiced except for me. Like they are this exceptionalist, a standout, a special consideration to these rules. And the fact that he does have a GoFundMe or something, he has gained a little bit of money from that. I don't care how much money he's thrown at him right now. That money will eventually run out. And then at that point, he's going to reap the full consequences, the full social consequences of what he's done, because he'll be out of a job. His money will have run out and nobody's going to talk to him. And it's going to be a delayed consequence, but it will eventually catch up to him. And then he's going to look back and go, why the hell did I do that? And it's really sad. Yeah, go ahead.
I would also predict, after listening to this individual, that they will be the next thing they will address is the, I'm going to get the terminology wrong, but the black pill incel, I'm lonely because women control sex and blah, blah, blah. And it's not because you're a fucking Nazi.
Yeah. In fact, in the article, when he was commenting about losing his job, the guy's name is Connor. when he was commenting about losing his job, without an ounce of self-reflection, he did not say, I lost my job because I espouse fascist Nazi rhetoric publicly.
Right.
He said that it's because he's been canceled for voicing heterosexual Christian moral beliefs. It goes from what he actually did, and he can't understand what he actually did. He can only see it through the lens of his religion. And now it's instead of him realizing I am promoting actively harmful views upon society, it's boiled down to I'm being persecuted for my religious beliefs. I'm a persecuted Christian. And
it's interesting.
It's crazy. It's mind-boggling to see this kind of stuff in action. Like it's like a comedian wrote it.
I started this show by saying that my hang-up today was basically about a version of honesty, because I watched some dishonest apologists. I thought about the dishonesty of apologists, and then I talked about it and expounded a little bit on the limitations and everything else. And then we had a bunch of callers who called in, several of whom were not honest, including hiding their identity, changing their names, calling back in, refusing to answer questions. I wanted to end the show on a positive note, so a huge thank you to William for waiting so long. William's been on hold for 2 hours and 15 minutes. You guys will recognize William's voice.
Hey, William.
Unlike most of the rest of them, has been honest, even perhaps to his own detriment on occasion. And so let's close out today's show by inviting William back. He wants to discuss the origins of life, approaching it as now a former theist. I believe you called in yesterday, but also we talked to you on Sunday, I think. Eric and I did. So welcome back, newly minted, godless heathen William.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, thank you. What an honor. I really appreciate that opening, Matt. And yeah, always a pleasure, Matt. I'm sorry to hear you're not feeling well. I really hope you start pulling through.
It's really bad. It has made my fuse shorter today than I anticipated it would be, but I've spent more time in the bathroom over the last 3 days than I have in the last 3 weeks. So, hurrah.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, I can't say that I'm surprised that some of these calls had that impact, but yeah, so I did want to, again, going through some of these questions that I've had as a theist, some of which I would actually use as like arguments to defend my belief in God, which obviously is now suspended or dropped, I would say. Sorry, I've been on the fence for so long, like I'm still getting used to the lingo. But
no, you're good.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about was this idea of the seemingly coming from randomness. I've actually engaged in a few debates as an atheist against theists who have made this argument, and I found it a little bit difficult to articulate. Yes?
Please don't make me a liar.
I'm sorry.
You've been an atheist. You've been an atheist for like a day, and you've engaged in debates with theists as an atheist.
Yeah, last night there was a live stream on YouTube, and I took part in it, and I was trying to kind of argue the other side of the fence and just see kind of like looking in the mirror kind of stuff and evaluating the position that I used to have.
I was in that live. I was viewing that live stream last night, Matt. He was indeed there and talking about these stuff, and also the night before as he was deconverting. So I think give him a little slack with the way he's timing it. Yeah.
In the 20 years that I've done this, your case is unusual, and something feels incredibly off, and I hope that I'm wrong. So please continue.
Sure. I guess I can clarify or elaborate on that a little bit. Maybe I phrased that strangely, but what I was trying to do was approach my doubt from another perspective and just trying to, I guess, play devil's advocate a little bit and say, like, okay, what if I were to argue against this position that I so recently held? Because I don't know how I would attack it. So that's kind of why I'm here. I wanting to ask you how you would attack this position of life coming from like seemingly true randomness, and that it would seem so improbable for life to come from true randomness, and like therefore there must be a creator, which is obviously not what I accept anymore. But I'm wondering what your thoughts on that argument would be and how you would address that in a conversation to someone who's saying that, oh, well, you know, life is so complex, it can't be random, it must have a creator. I was just curious on what your thoughts on that would be.
Oh, what difference does, how could you tell if something was too random?
I guess, yeah, that's a good question. You're asking how I can tell if something is truly random?
I don't know that anything is truly random, but if the argument is, oh, the process is too random for this to not happen without guidance. Well, first of all, the process is not random. Evolution by means of natural selection is not random. The mutations that occur in the genome due to copying errors and a number of other things, those are random or seem random because we don't necessarily always know a cause and can't always identify the cause. But evolution by means of natural selection, nature is selecting, not with intent, but whatever can survive is what survives. Or more accurately, it's whatever can't survive won't. And so we are the descendants of those things that were successful. It's not a random process. The honing towards a complicated, robust thinking creature is not random. It is anything but random. It is just not intentionally selected by an agent. There were changes that were unplanned. Evolution doesn't have a goal in mind. And those changes turned out to result in us for now. We're probably going to go extinct in the near future. And then there will be some other creature that thinks maybe, hopefully, down the line that it was the undirected purpose of evolution. But this notion that, oh, it's just the world is too random. The world is not that random. There is order. There is physics, and physics dictates chemistry. And chemicals combine in very predictable, strict processes. And while we don't understand everything about physics and space-time and all of that, we have a little bit of understanding, enough to know that it's not just random. As a matter of fact, the universe is at least softly deterministic, if not, I'm pretty sure that it's not hard deterministic, but it's at least softly deterministic, and that's nothing at all like random. It's not like we're walking along and somebody spontaneously produces a duplicate of themselves on the sidewalk next to them. I mean, that would be kind of random. The universe is fairly well ordered.
Yeah, I think William, when we look at the universe and we have what's impressive and what's complex, and what's kind of, I guess, when we don't have the ability to take a sample and like test and calculate probabilities, what's likely tends to be completely arbitrary from our starting point. Like, what is impressive? Like, where's your starting point to determine what's impressive and what's not impressive, what's complex and not complex, what's random and what's chaotic? I heard, was it last night? Was this you last night? Or maybe this was Justin earlier today? Like, if you took a piece of paper and you just put a bunch of random dots all over that paper, and you took a pen and took a subset of dots. I think that was you last night, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, you could take a pen and you can connect the dots and make a picture out of just completely random dots on a piece of paper. You can make a more complex picture. You can make a less complex picture. Like, there's all kinds of possibilities there. So kind of we want to be careful that we don't start with certain assumptions about what might be complex, what might not be complex, what's possible, what's not possible, when we have no ability to test other examples of universes coming about or other examples of universes developing into what it is today. And I think from our last conversation, it's okay. It's great you're talking about it and thinking about it, but it's okay for now to simply put a big question mark there, because we could potentially have no answers for any of these questions. Science could potentially say we have zero idea how this all got here, no clue whatsoever. And that doesn't like diminish atheism. That doesn't promote any type of theism. It's just an unknown.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
There are like, and but to kind of take on what you're talking about more directly, my personal like way I kind of cope with this unknown is I kind of think about how there's different hypotheses about what the universe is, what the cosmos is. The Big Bang, Big Crunch, kind of cyclical universe type theory, where the universe is perpetual and eternal, and it will expand out, contract in, expand out, contract in, with the universal constants and stuff changing with every cycle. Eventually, you're going to have a universe that is capable of supporting life, and life actually develops inside of it. We happen to be in one of those right now. Could be that in the next cycle, something completely different appears under a different set of laws. Like, not saying that's actually the case, but like these are scientific hypotheses and theories that have mathematical and evidentiary basis behind it. But it's really hard for us to, fully solidify any of these things, because we're talking about, back when time broke down, or back before time started, physics breaks down, and we just simply, it's like an event horizon of a black hole. We simply can't see past it. So that's kind of how I look at it, and I go, okay, there might be an answer here somewhere, or there might never be an answer accessible to us. That doesn't really get in the way of me denying or doubting there's a God, though. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I like that you brought up the picture example, because that's what I was going to follow up with asking. And I think I did make this analogy last night, and as soon as I made it, I kind of like stepped back a little bit, and I was like, I'm not actually sure if that does hold, because I was starting to question if, like, I think I said drawing a house with connected dots on a sheet of random dots would require like agency or something. I think
it's an apt analogy in that you can look at something supposedly chaotic and find some type of order in it. And the thing is, though, if you think of it that way, as the universe is just, when the universe is born, it just smatters a bunch of dots all over a paper just randomly. There's no intent behind that. There's no purpose behind that. Nobody designed that. But it could be that there are patterns in there. Like, perhaps, there's always a one dot with 2 dots orbiting it, or something like that. Like, you don't have to have intent in order for there to be some type of order to a lot of randomness, is what I'm saying. It's possible that the universe occurred, had this supposedly random elements to it, but within that there are some type of ordered systems, or there are some type of sense to it. And it could be that we're the result of that. Just patterns come together, chemicals mix in the appropriate ways, and now here we are to complain about it. It could be the case. And like I said, if the cyclical universe thing is true, then we have infinite occurrences of this, and it's eventually going to happen. That something's going to come about to say, hey, what's going on here? But like I said, I'm not a physicist. I'm not anything close to that. So these are just my layman kind of thoughts about it. But the randomness of it doesn't really get me at all.
Yeah, I think that's making a lot more sense. Actually, now that you're saying this, I mean, I'm a software engineer. If I had to, I guess, try to make an analogy maybe closer to what you're saying, but piggybacking off of what I was saying with the polka dot example, I guess, would it be accurate to say that it's sort of like starting a computer simulation through like randomness, but having like parameter constraints on how like the randomness kind of permeates throughout the simulation? I feel like that would be more.
I mean, we kind of already do that with machine learning. We don't have completely random parameters to start with, but we do have some system with some constraints, and then within that system, as we iterate, we allow these mutations or randomness to go in there, and eventually we get something like, like you said, you're a software developer. You're familiar with the channel Code Bullet? Have you watched this channel? Very popular. He goes through all of this and he shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he goes through all this and he shows the algorithms used for deep machine learning or for learning algorithms, and he can teach a car to drive. He can teach a man to run in a computer simulation. So, it like the theory, the method is sound because we can demonstrate it for it to work. It's just we have big question marks about how it came about. And I think Matt just raised his hand, but I'm not sure. So, some say Matt.
William, are you familiar with John Conway's Game of Life?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for those who aren't, you should go look up John Conway's Game of Life. It started in 1970 as a really simple computer simulation showing that with a couple of very basic rules, you can get little pixelated things that give the appearance of life, including generating copies and clones and flyers and things that appear to move. All that's doing, only thing that's happening is pixels are turning off and on based on a very simple rule set, and yet it creates the appearance of life, of motion, of something with intent, of something with a purpose. And it can come out, you can go to playgameoflife.com and actually put in your random pattern that you want to start with and run a simulation and see what you get out of it. But there are, because it is an ordered set of rules, there are predictable, in this case, 100% predictable results, because there's no randomness in this, in Conway's Game of Life in this. When you add in even the slightest bit of randomness, who knows what you might be able to get out of something like that. But it's eye-opening that when we look at it, we perceive those things and we give them names. Like, this one is a glider. No, it's not. It's a handful of pixels turning on and off, and it's different pixels every time because the pixels don't move. It's just, it gives the illusion of moving. It doesn't necessarily demonstrate this, but I view life in its broad sense. I am this package of material at this particular time in this particular location. And now I am a different package of material with some of the same stuff definitely in a different time and in a different location. It's this package that changes, that is me. And there's no atom in my body that was here when I was born. When you start looking at things like that, the temptation is to think, oh, it's all just patterns and therefore it's all meaningless. But don't overlook the fact that this is a pattern, recognizing the pattern, and apparently, although it's debatable to what extent we can, having the ability to influence this pattern and other patterns in significant ways, and to react and respond to those sorts of actions. It's not complexity that is the hallmark of design, it is simplicity that is the hallmark of design. But when we look at things that are so complex we can't grasp them the way we can grasp the pixels in Conway's Group of Life, or Conway's Game of Life, it shouldn't surprise us that there's awe and wonder. And maybe we don't have all the answers right now, but there's still not justification to think that the answer we're missing is Magic Man done it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the Conway's Game of Life example tie into that. I think that's, honestly, I'm surprised I haven't really considered that specific example before. I actually had a college project in one of my coding classes where I worked on a simulation that was similar algorithm to Conway's Game of Life, not quite the same, but again, just, yeah, I agree with most everything you said. So I appreciate that input. That does help a lot with my deeper understanding of, I guess, just the way life is and how things just are because that's just the parameters of nature.
Maybe.
So
Maybe things are the way they are because that's the way they had to be. Maybe there's more to it, but the time to think there's more to it is when you have a justification for saying, ooh, we need to go beyond this because what we currently have is not only insufficient, but there's good reason to think that there may be an answer out here somewhere, which is why I was, asked the other callers, hey, how do you know what's right? How do you know what's evil? How do you know this? How do you know that? Because none of us have time to be an expert on all these things. And yet we're all just uncomfortable with not knowing. We're all, or most of us, some people don't give as much a shit about truth as I think they should. But what we need to get comfortable with is not just saying, I don't know, but I don't know. But if there's a way to find out, let's see if we can find it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
well, William, thanks so much for the call, and congratulations, and feel free to call us back. I'm sure there'll be lots of other questions. My apologies for the suspicions, and I look forward to hearing from you again. But we got to wrap this up and move on to super chats. I really appreciate your patience. You were on hold for like 2 hours.
Yeah,
and so
I honestly super thank you. It's super unfair that I've called in so much, but I wouldn't have if it wasn't so helpful. So I really am just grateful that you took my call anyways. Thank you so much. And that's all I'll say for sake of time.
You're welcome. And genuinely, I know that I look forward to hearing from you again. I'm pretty sure Eric does as well. And everybody here in the line is grateful that you have become an example of how these conversations can benefit people. And there are other people out there that have benefited in other ways. There are people that will message me and say, after talking with you, I went off, did some research, and it strengthened my faith. And I wish they had a good reason, but at least they took the time to think about it and get rid of maybe their old bad reasons. Maybe they found new bad reasons. Maybe they found new good reasons. Maybe they'll share them someday. But the number of people who don't spend any time thinking about these things with any sort of personal honesty and self-reflection seems to dramatically outweigh those who do. So take care, William. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, William.
Thank you very much. You as well. Yep. Bye.
Maybe I'll see you on breakfast tacos tonight. So yeah, see you later. That was the channel we were on last night to have a little discussion. So yeah, he's been very active, and he's been actively trying to process these things. And so yeah, I think he's doing really well, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you, William. So thanks for coming by.
And I know I know it's been a bunch of calls over some period of time, but for those who are wondering, what was Matt talking about? It's not only rare that we talk to somebody on Sunday who's doubting, and they call back in on Wednesday as an atheist to say that they debated theists last night as an atheist. That is like 5 levels of red flag there. However, I think I get it, because I don't want to say William's like me or Eric or anybody. William's like William. But there are people who are obsessive learners and who will doggedly keep going after something, and it becomes their passion. And as long as you don't let your passion for the subject make you blind to the problems related to it, great. And as long as you don't jump in to the deep end before you're ready, and so that you wear out and we don't have you, great. I'm thankful that there are people who every day find their way out of religion, change their mind, learn about skepticism, and want to actually be involved. Because I'm here because I desperately wanted to prove that I was right, that Jesus Christ was Lord of Lords, King of Kings, that all of it was true, that he dwelt within me, that I was heading off to heaven, and that the Holy Spirit wanted me to interact with people and share that good news. People say, "What happened to you, Matt?" So sorry. What happened to you? Who hurt you? Nobody hurt me. I didn't have a bad experience at a church. I didn't get mad at my parents or my pastors. As a matter of fact, I recognize that even now, even though they're still believers, they were all doing the best they could with the information they had, trying to be good parents, good pastors, based on what their beliefs are. They weren't trying to harm or hurt anybody. They are as much a victim of the flawed thinking as I was and anybody else is. So I never really spent much time mad at them. I'm more mad at the preachers who, once they've had the opportunity to engage, do so dishonestly. I'm more upset at my parents now that we've had an opportunity to engage and they just admit that they're closed-minded and aren't going to evaluate it, or interact. But that's what freedom is. See, we don't make outgoing calls here. I don't go around the neighborhood knocking on people's doors to say, "Hey, have you stopped believing in Jesus yet? I can help you with that." It would be perhaps funny. I released a video recently about maybe.
That's why none of my neighbors like me. Okay.
I've been meaning to talk to you about it, but you're so good on the show, we figured we'd just let it slide.
Is that Jehovah's Witness in me? I just can't get it out. Yeah.
Yep. On that note, though, we've got super chats to get to, and I'm very grateful for everybody who was here tonight and who contributed, not just with super chats, but with phone calls and great thoughts. I'm even grateful to the young woman who called in twice, despite being a liar, because what it does is if you're out there and you're a believer and all you see is fake Christians or liars or people who aren't engaging honestly, I hope it makes you ask yourself, hang on, could I do better? Would I do better? Should I be doing better? Am I not obligated as a Christian under 1 Peter 3:15, or am I not obligated as a Muslim under the Quran? Am I not obligated as a human being compassionate, seeing people who are lost and in need of help? Am I not obligated morally and ethically to give a rational defense for something, to engage honestly? Because the truth is, if we're asking questions and the caller continuously refuses to answer the question we asked, they're not moving the conversation forward. They're either a troll, a prank caller, or they've got a script. In any case, they're not thinking and they're not representing true believers. They're intentionally misrepresenting true believers.
And
some might say I was a better Christian than them before and still am. But
yeah. And I'll add to that, Natalie, if I was your God, I would be so embarrassed right now. And that goes to any other troll out there too. It's like, if you really have the truth, why do you got to do something like that? If there really is a God watching you, do you think that God is actually smiling on you for doing this, or representing him this way?
Natalie's, that's the thing, is
probably not.
I don't think Natalie's is a believer. I think this is something kids are doing for funds.
You never know. Never know.
There's no way in hell.
Possibility.
There's no way in hell when I was a believer that I could have called in and engaged in a dishonest fashion like that. But it's all right.
Mm-hmm.
It just, we're stuck. $10 Canadian from David Haxor. Thank you so much, David. Get well soon, please, and thank you. See, y'all are so sweet, and I appreciate it so much.
Yeah. Good vibes are great, but good vibes with money, even better. So, yeah, thank you, David. We've got $10 from Jamnik06. Hey, Jamnik, how you doing? Hope you feel better soon, Matt. Wow, Matt's almost as good as Arden at making me feel like I need to send money to the line, LOL. Team Zerba. That's a new one. What's a Zerba?
Zerba
Any
is
context?
Oh, he doesn't know.
Honey, you
Hold
got
on.
a picture you can put up?
Yeah, let me pull this up. And while I'm on the mic, can I encourage the audience to hit like and subscribe? It's free, helps the channel massively. Yeah. And let's hit 666. We're like almost there. So do that thing.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm really bad about soliciting donations, and my boss gets after me on occasion. And it's like, I tend to trust that you guys are here to support us because it's valuable. There's the Zerba thing. It's a drawing that Forrest did during the fundraiser.
And our audience loves an inside joke, so now it's merch.
It's really
zebra. Cool. Yeah, it's
Love
a really cool looking merch. Anyway,
you're
better at asking.
You're reminding me of something I did a long time ago when I was a wee Jehovah's Witness. I was probably like 6 or 7, going door to door. After you do the religious shtick and play some literature, you always ask for a contribution. Like, hey, would you like to? The term is, if you would like to contribute to our worldwide work, we'll gladly accept that for you. Make sure it goes to where it should go. And 8-year-old me couldn't remember the word contribution. So I just went to the more blunt, if you'll give us some money. I remember the 2 adults I was with put their hands on my shoulders and pulled me back, got in front of me, and then took over. So it's a core memory, and it's great.
I am fine with asking for money for something like recovering from religion. I am terrible when it comes to asking for money for me, and it keeps getting me in trouble. It's the reason I didn't monetize my YouTube channel until last December, and I'm an idiot, and I should have done it much sooner. But in any case, I was half joking with Arden and Eric right before we went live, and I was like, I feel like shit. I'd almost cancel the show, but I think I need the show, and I was like, I should just ask for get well donations right at the start, and it was like a duh, Thank you guys. Mm-hmm. I appreciate the support and the love. $10 from Abraxton. You're gay, homie. You might have a point.
That old chestnut. We have another $10 Canadian from David Haxor. Get better, Matt.
I will do that. I don't know why you're yelling at me. I'm sick. You shouldn't be yelling at people who are sick.
David, why you make me yell at Matt? Why'd you make me do that?
Now I'm starting to lose. Like I can hear me. See, there's been stomach stuff, but it's so exhausted. Like I haven't slept right. Anyway. I'm not going to keep whining. Thank you. $10 from Inane Glory 7431. Just here to prove I care, even if it's just a small amount. Get well soon, Matt. Thank you. I was only half serious, but you guys are awesome. Oh my God, they're just coming.
We have $10 from the Atheist Mechanic. Hope you get to feel better, Matt. Thank you, Mechanic. Really appreciate that.
I'm definitely going to get better. $10 from At the Atheist Mechanic regarding Trump and the Epstein files. If not a pedo, then why pedo shaped? Release the files in their entirety. From what I've seen so far, this issue has united everybody to some degree. Give me 1 second.
If it walks like a pedo and quacks like a pedo, it's probably a pedo.
So I want to make this statement just because there are people who'll be like, oh, this is different. So for years, I've been pointing out that pedophilia is about the attraction and not the actual act. And that while we should absolutely condemn the act and people who engage in the act deserve punishment and potentially help, if we stigmatize pedophilia, people who suffer from that attraction will be afraid to tell people about it, so they will be unable to get the help they need. I still believe that that's the case. However, the colloquialism about these fucking pedos and who is absolutely ignoring what we have very good reason to be is an actual ring of child rapists. I'm not going to keep correcting people on I still have the exact same view. But we live in a different world where that distinction isn't relevant to what we're talking about because we know it took place. We know, and we know they're hiding it, and we know they're lying about it. And we know that MAGA and Project 2025 and Pam Bondi and all the rest of them are complicit in hiding the crimes that Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for. I will draw distinctions about getting people help versus punishing kitty diddlers some other day. Fuck Trump and everybody else involved. From the people who were there, from the people who were involved in those activities, to the people covering it up and actively hiding it. You are beneath scum. You are vermin, and you need to be flushed out and removed from any sort of public life where you could ever feel lionized or appreciated. You should be miserable and locked away for the safety of everyone for the rest of your miserable fucking existence. But that might be the stomach talking.
Yep. +1 from me. Okay. I think it's my turn. $9.99 from Greg Markowski 6747. I care. Here is $10 for some meds. Hope you're feeling better soon.
Thanks, Greg. I already spent it. I have Pepto.
There you go.
And Imodium. I'm getting the best meds. $10 from Average Delta. My favorite Mac quote is, neither the age of your claims nor the number of people who believe in nor the strength of their convictions have any bearing on whether they are true. Get well soon, Matt. Thank you. It's always nice when, like, I get quoted on stuff, and a lot of times people will credit me with things that I'm, like, weren't remotely original to me. And it's because I don't always necessarily cite people, and it annoys me for some of the citations. Like, for example, the concept that forgiveness is a suspension of justice. And so God can either be perfectly just, in which case you get what you deserve, or God can engage in forgiveness. But those two things are in conflict, because forgiveness means specifically you're not getting what you deserved. That concept, for me, originated with Dan Barker. I think it's in Faithless. I think it may be in that book. I don't know, but it was a great idea. But other people credited me with it. This one, that phrase, probably mine, but still, the concepts behind it are stuff that I learned elsewhere, and I've benefited, and I stand on the shoulders of giants, and so do we all. But thank you so much, Average Delta.
Just about to say that I used to be in the habit of whenever I bring up something I heard from somebody else, I would do my best to credit that person along with that. And that, while I think it's appropriate and is a good thing to do, if you do it every single time you're recalling something that you're quoting from somebody else, it gets very cumbersome and kind of gets in the way of the conversation. So yeah, it's just kind of realizing, yes, we do indeed stand on the shoulders of giants, and we are going to recycle a lot of stuff that we've heard from other people, and it's very impractical to constantly cite that. So kind of letting go of that has been kind of something that I've been wanting to get better at. But yeah,
the other thing is that people who are really good at it first heard something from me, so they credit me, and that's so it just becomes a citation. So whenever you see a citation, feel free to reference it, but exercise some caution.
Yeah. And always feel free to ask. If something comes across very apt or you liked what you hear, you can ask, is that from you, or did you hear that from somebody else? Because if you heard that from somebody else, I want to know more about that person. So it's always a good question to ask. Yep. Okay, we got $10. Awesome avatar, by the way. $10 from Brent J. Council Treasurer for poultices, ungent, bloodletting maggots, honey, hemlock, faith healing, anything you require to balance the four humors. Or you could just visit a doctor. May the Tooth Bunny speed your recovery. And indeed, may the Tooth Bunny speed your recovery. And also, Justin, I see in the audience, also hail Doug. The Tooth Bunny is not here to compete with Doug. I think the Tooth Bunny is here to be a partner with Doug and to kind of spread the love amongst all.
In a holistic approach.
In a holistic approach, not a holy war type approach. So yeah.
Wait. What is I'm not familiar with Doug. Who is Doug?
I'm so sorry. That might be a bit of confusion here. Some people in the audience will. Justin has a rock with googly eyes on it, and that is Doug. And whenever somebody brings up that, God is a necessary precondition for all reason and logic and blah, 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 he will just hold up Doug and say, no, Doug is. And basically just mirror those presuppositional, baseless assertion arguments right back at the caller, and basically just illustrate that your claims are as unfounded, as absurd as me holding up a rock saying the same thing. And there's kind of a culture there about, Doug's our Rocky Craig, and upon his rocky shoulders we stand. So it's a thing over there. But sorry, now that I have to explain the joke's dead. So let's just.
No, it's great. There's a new poll in chat. Go vote. Who would win in a fight, Doug or the Tooth Bunny?
Oh, I specifically said no holy wars.
I know. Yeah. That's why I did it.
I specifically. See, and this is how real holy wars start. They're like, hey, let's be friends. And it just takes one person to throw a rock. And here we are.
Let's be honest, though. If she put up the poll that said who would win between Doug and the Tooth Bunny and Zerba would win.
Oh, true. New poll incoming.
Yeah. Player 3 has entered the game.
Okay. And I think the other reason I'm losing my voice is because I'm about to pass out. I don't mean it like in a literal pass. I'm close to done. But
okay,
I'll echo one of my previous super chats. But a legit God would have a holy book that isn't left to interpretation, needs to be studied, etc. Yes, completely. This 1,000 times this. There is no way that a being that is smarter than me, wiser than me, could ever decide that the best way to communicate his message is at one point on the timeline to, in a period of time where few people were literate, and to communicate this in languages that change and die and then never do it again. That is a patently ridiculous claim. That is as ridiculous as Trump claiming that he spoke to his uncle about when his uncle taught the Unabomber. That's how ridiculous that is. $10 from Jamnik.
All right.
06. Oh, sorry. I guess.
Nope, no worries.
I'll do it.
Okay.
There once was a tutor who tooted the flute that tutored two tutors to toot. So the toot of the tutor, is it tougher to toot than two tutors to toot? Wait, I need to do that again because I lost it. There once was a tutor who tooted the flute that tutored two tutors to toot. So the toot of the tutor, is it tougher to toot than to tutor two tutors to toot? This chat was to steal second from David Haxor. Well done.
I'm so glad you took that. I would have butchered it. Okay, we have $9.99. Yeah, $9.99 from Hannah Hodkins, 9516. I think Tristan should definitely try some therapy. I used to struggle with extreme obsessive religious thoughts. I went and got help from a secular therapist. Best thing I ever did to get help. And yeah, I hope if Tristan is indeed suffering from something like that, I hope he does seek some help and find relief. Like I said, I've done. It was eerily similar to my family member, and I was seeing some patterns there, and I was like, okay, I think I might know what's going on, but I'm not a professional, so what do I know? But good luck, Tristan, and thank you, Hannah. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. When I saw Hannah's little avatar up there, I actually thought it was Andrea Boches for a second, but the eyes are a different color. Mm-hmm. And you got to remember, I'm looking at a tiny little thumbnail. Oh, and Andrea Boches is a chess streamer, along with her sister, Alexandra. $10 from Aliashana Silverbow. Thanks for keeping me company while I was cooking and eating dinner. Brats cooked in a dark beer. Oh, I thought you were talking about your kids when you said brats. Brats cooked in a dark beer with caramelized onions. It was delish. Good food may be the closest I get to a spiritual experience.
That got dark. That got real dark.
Cooking real dark those babies in dark beer. I was like, what Aaron would do. Thank you.
I think I have a Halloween decoration idea now in my head for this October. Okay, we got $10 from the Atheist Mechanic. Hey, thank you so much again for another donation. I saw a post trying to be humorous saying that the Bible is a lie about an underage pregnancy that got way out of hand. I can definitely agree. It got out of hand. Yeah, I recognize that old meme from, I think maybe 15 years ago I found. Yeah, it is. It is a woman's cover up about a pregnancy that you can't explain. That got way out of hand, and that's kind of more of a comical, more comical standpoint than actually divine. So yeah, thanks, Mechanic.
Sorry, I was obsessing over that doesn't explain the Old Testament, but I decided not to go down that road. $10 from Ada Wellesley 514. Thanks for the recommendation of early Christian writings. Been diving in it since. Any other neat websites you've been holding out on us? I tell you, my favorite research tools. I use E-Sword as my Bible study. And then there's playgameoflife.com. There's the Index to Creationist Claims. So that's at talkorigins.org. And early Christian writings I mentioned. Those are the go-to resources. I mean, I still will go to Wikipedia, but I always take a look at the reference links and try to follow those when I'm researching something. But yeah, those are probably the biggest websites that I've made use of over the years. Incredibly important stuff.
Got $50 from Duffelbag 420 at MD. Get well wishes.
When I saw the thumbnail, thank you so much, Duffelbag. When I saw the thumbnail, I was trying to figure out, because it's like a 1/4 inch down here. I was trying to figure out if that was your beard or if you were sitting there like this.
Oh yeah, like doing this. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's super wizard level beard right there. That's quite impressive.
It is. Yes, it is spectacular, and all of us pale and are weak at your extraordinary beard. $10 from Apt the Atheist Mechanic with the bamboo ball python. Would it be wrong to say that Christians have a persecution kink? Some of them definitely do.
Yeah,
I don't know how much. I know they have a persecution complex, and the Bible supports this. The Bible basically tells them, you will be persecuted for my name's sake. And some of them took this to mean, oh, when I do something and somebody says I'm being an asshole, that's the persecution. And they fail to realize that maybe they're calling you an asshole because you're a fucking asshole and not because you're actually a believer. And so what it does is it means that when things aren't going your way, and it has nothing to do directly with other people, Christians will be like, oh, that's Satan. Satan's trying to sway me away from Christ. My walk with Christ is not what it should be. Please forgive me, Lord. I'll rededicate my life. I will get back on track. And when it's other people, those people are acting on behalf of Satan, the dark one, the evil Lord, the adversary, to try to sway us or to diminish the impact. But I tell you now, God's word will not return to him void. I'm here. Never mind. I won't do that today. I'm too sick to.
I was thinking about how whoever wrote that scripture about persecution was a genius. Way to subvertly eliminate falsification out of the whole proposition that Christianity is true. Because if you go out and you preach and you make new followers, you are bearing fruit. You cast your seed on the rich soil, and you're being rewarded. But if you go out there and you're being persecuted, well, hey, that's also confirmation that you're doing the right thing, because you have the truth, and there are evil ones out there who want to persecute you and make you suffer for it. So either way, you got that confirmation that you were doing the right thing. Utterly brilliant on that writer to kind of argument proof the position of Christianity, at least from a rational standpoint. Okay, so we have £10 from Harder Gamer. Prince of Darkness now only lives in rock history. Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, I heard about that yesterday. It was 76, I think.
Yeah,
he just performed like a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Well, let's not go into it and disparage anybody's memory. There were things about Ozzy I enjoyed. $10 from, hey, I was going to say stop it, and then I realized if I say stop it, Jimmy will fire me. $10 from Apt the Atheist Mechanic. I'm working on a drawing for Arden this weekend. I hope she loves it. All I can say about it is Espion rules. Well, she already will love that.
Right on.
Bum, bum, bum.
All right, we have $20 alleged money from Canada from a Larsis 8732. I love listening to Eric. I studied.
Well, too bad. I'm going to interrupt and talk all over him, so you can't listen to. I'm sorry.
Oh my God, how rude. Let's see here. I love listening to Eric. Hey, actually, I like this because I get to read this sentence, not just that second time, but now a third time. I love listening to Eric. I studied with the Jehovah's Witnesses for over a decade, and I've been to their Thursday night ministry school. I find it hilarious that Eric is now using the skills he learned there to help others deconstruct. Hilarious. That's probably one of the good things that I pulled from my upbringing as a JW. For those who don't know, I think they've since decommissioned this program. They have something new in place, but it's called the ministry school, the Theocratic Ministry School. Traditionally, it's on Thursday nights, and it was a systematic, structured public speaking education program. I think I still have the book here, where they have lessons, and every time you're assigned to give a talk in the Kingdom Hall, the school overseer will observe it, and you'll give it in front of the congregation. The school overseer will observe it and then make notes in the book and give you his feedback. And it was actually like kind of a decently structured program where you go through certain points about public speaking. Of course, what you're public speaking about is nonsense, but the actual things you learn, the practical skills from that, actually have come in very handy for me later on in life. I went to speech courses in university after I left, and I did really well in those. I've done multiple public speaking things, and now I'm doing things here on the line. So yeah, there is this bit of irony there that my religious upbringing gave me the skills needed to tear down that religion. So thank you, Alaris. That's a good observation. I think that every once in a while too is I got this from the witnesses for the most part. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and it's the only reason I'm able to do what I do is because I was a serious believer, raised in it from the age of 5. And it's funny because I did that debate at Austin Baptist Church on the resurrection against Mike Lacona, and people that I hadn't seen in decades who used to attend church showed up, and during the Q&A basically said, "Hey, I used to be a deacon at your church. I'm trying to figure out what happened because we all thought you were going to go on to good things, big things for the Lord."
Yeah.
And, it's first of all, it's hard to beat that credibility. Of all the people will attack me for all kinds of stuff. You're too lefty. You're gay, homie. You're in a cult. Whatever. There's a handful that'll say you were never a true Christian, and my answer to that is I agree, and I don't think anybody else is either under the definition you're using. But I thought I was. My parents thought I was. My church thought I was. And that's as much as anybody could ever demonstrate. So they can't say that I wasn't committed. All they can do is say that I wasn't sincere, but now they would be pretending to read my mind.
Yeah.
And that's a bad idea because they tend to be really bad at it. $10 from @Mercenary Crow. Get well, homie. Thank you so much. I'm sure I will be fine by the time Arden gets back from NanoCon this weekend. If you are in the Nashville area or can get there, NanoCon is this weekend. While we're taking these last few super chats, Arden may be able to get up a little web link or something to promote NanoCon a little bit. It's not a paid thing. They didn't ask us to do it. They didn't send anybody over. I just love the people at NanoCon, and so I will.
Nice.
Hey.
All right, we got $9.99 from Justin from Deconstruction Zone. Folks, after the stream, go over there and subscribe. It's a great channel, very entertaining. And like I said, Justin is a machine with his schedule. He does this hours and hours every week. So if you're wanting to listen to something, definitely go there. P1 is the earliest manuscript of Matthew, and it doesn't have a name. Yeah, you can actually go online right now and view images of P1. And there's no Matthew name on there. If there was a name on there, we don't have it. It's not there anymore. But likely there's
By
no
the
name
way,
on it to begin with.
Thanks, Justin. And I did enjoy stopping by and seeing you. You gave me thoughts and content. If you're ever free on a Wednesday night and want to sit in and take calls or whatever, hit me up.
Yep.
$10 from Cayenne Young 9788. I pray to Doug that Matt feels better. Somebody should pray to Joe Pesci. I hear he gets shit done.
We got $20 from 010 Zach. Get well soon, Matt. Matt and Eric is always a great duo. I always learn something new. Hey, thank you, Zach. Really appreciate that. Glad you're getting something out of our ramblings.
Me too. I mean, me too. I learned something new.
Yeah.
10 pounds from Jessica87. Missed the show. Did we get any evidence for God? No. Okay. Just wanted to come and give my love and my compulsory hashtag Espion sucks, hashtag Zerba for the line logo, hashtag love you soon. We could add in several more there, but thank you so much, Jessica. And Espion rules, Jessica drools.
Got $10 from Alia Shauna Silverbow. That sounds like an awesome D&D name. Next time I cook brats, I'll make sure to cackle a little. Yeah.
Nicely done.
Do it. Yes.
On that note, running through the schedule real quick. Tomorrow will be the Transatlantic Call-In Show around 2 o'clock. Arden, are you on and producing?
Yep.
Cool. There you go. 2 o'clock Central. So 7 hours prior to right now, tomorrow. Tune in for that. Then tomorrow evening, we'll be going to see Fantastic Four so that none of you fuckers can spoil it. And then Arden's heading to NanoCon this weekend. NANOCON. You can go look it up online. It is the Nashville Nuns Convention. I've been there. I enjoy it. I love the people involved. I wish I was getting to go with Arden. Arden will be there to speak along with a bunch of other people. Please go to linemerch.com and patreon.com/calltheline to support us there. Thank you. I love you guys. I will go get better.